Everybody. Mr. Mejia, can you call the roll for a special meeting of our Planning and Land Use Management Committee?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Councilmember Harris Dawson as chair.
Present.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield. I see Councilman Blumenfield, but I didn't hear a response.
I didn't have the link, so I just got on. Are we, what is it?
Very good.
Calling roll.
Calling the roll.
In that case, I'm here.
Right on time.
Councilmember Kern Price.
Here.
Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo.
Here.
Councilmember John Lee.
Present.
We have a quorum, and I also see two distinguished council members joining us. Councilmember Bonin and Councilmember Koretz.
Welcome our colleagues to sit in this committee with us. I also want to, for the record, recognize from the CLA's office, Mr. Roberto Mejia, and from the City Attorney's Office, Adrian Corsani. Today's a special meeting, so we do not have general public comment, but we are still working to streamline these meetings to be more like our in-person meetings. We're figuring out the technology. You folks will know that we had been taking all public comment up front and then deliberating on items one by one. Now we'll try to take public comment as we deal with specific items in order, and you'll get instructions on how to avail yourselves of that opportunity from Mr. Mejia, who will now go over the public comment rules and processes.
I will read them into the record, Councilman. Members of the public who would like to offer public comment on the items listed on the agenda should call 1-669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 161-644-6631 and then press number sign. Press number sign again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press *9 to request to speak. During the public comment, city staff will call on members of the public by the last four digits of their phone number. By pressing *9, callers raise their virtual hand. Once the caller hears the last four digits of their phone number, they will need to press *6 to unmute themselves and should be ready to speak. Once the caller is ready to speak, he or she must state their name and the item or items they are calling to speak on. Failure to do so will result in the call being muted and subsequently disconnected. Appellants and/or their representatives and applicants and/or their representatives will be allowed to speak for a total of 3 minutes per side, unless otherwise noted by the chairman of this committee. Members of the public wishing to speak on one agenda item only shall have an opportunity to speak for 1 minute. Members of the public wishing to speak on more than one item shall state that and shall be allowed to speak for a total of 2 minutes. As this is a special committee meeting, we will not have general public comment. We are only taking public comment on items on the agenda. This concludes the comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mejia. And it seems like we've got a healthy amount of calls. So hopefully folks will remember the instructions and be ready to go. Remember the last four numbers of your phone number. To begin our meetings, there is a request to continue items number 1, number 4, and number 10. Could you summarize those items for the record, Mr. Mejia?
Yes. Item number 1 is the weekly report by the Director of Planning. Item number 4, Councilman, this is a motion by Councilmember Cedillo, and it's requesting the Planning Department, along with the City Attorney, to prepare and present an ordinance to establish a hillside construction regulation supplemental use district. And item number 10, this is an appeal. It contains 4 appellants, and it relates to the approval, or rather the consideration of the vesting tentative tract map for 19 single-family residents in CD3.
So without objection, we will continue item number 1 to November 19th. We'll continue item number 4 to December 8th, 2020, and we will continue item number 10 to December 3rd, 2020. If there's no objection, that'll be the order. Mr. Blumenfield.
Yeah, can I just say on continuing item number 10, which I support doing it, but I know there was some confusion and a number of folks may be on the line for that one, but that this is a track map that I had a lot of concerns about, and have been standing with the community, but there's some last minute developments that folks are working out, and the community and the developer needed a little extra time to see if that can work, which is why we're not hearing it. So I apologize for folks who may have called in. Hopefully you got the word through whatever the chain of folks who have been talking about it, but I just wanted people to realize what was going on. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Blumenfield. Most important to get it right. More important to get it right than to get it done fast. So without objection, we'll continue those items.
Mr. Chair.
Moving forward, Mr. Mejia, we have items number 2, 3, and 4, which I'm going to recommend. If there's no objection, we accept those items on consent. If you could summarize those for the record.
Yes, Councilman, item 4, we just continued that item to December the 8th. So that one will not go on consent.
Thank you.
Items 2 and 3 will go on consent. Item 2 is a report from the Cultural Heritage Commission to include the Sam and Jane Taylor House as a historic cultural monument. And item 3, again, a report from the Cultural Heritage Commission to include the Stanley Burke Restaurant and Sign as a historic cultural monument.
All right. If there's no objection, we'll adopt those items on consent. Now we'll move to the portion of the meeting where we accept callers into the meeting who want to speak on multiple agenda items. So that is folks who want to speak on 2 or more agenda items. I'll turn the meeting over to staff. Ms. Binyam, if you could conduct that process.
All callers wishing to speak on multiple items, can you please press *9 to raise your hand? Caller with the number ending in 0899, can you please press *6 to unmute?
Hello.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, we can hear you.
Okay. So I didn't understand. Is item 10 available as well?
We're going to hear item 10 on another date.
Oh, okay. So you set that back. So I'd like to speak on item 9, please. May I speak?
So if you're only on item 9, you can either speak now or you can chime back in when we get to item 9. It's up to you.
I think I'll just take my time now since I can't talk on, I was going to talk on 9 and 10. What do you prefer?
You go ahead.
Okay. I just want to represent that it's really time. I'd like to oppose item 9. I want to ask you guys to really, my name is Stacey Dotson Stearns. I've called in many times before. It's really essential at this point that you stop creating loopholes for the wealthy, okay? Stop fighting so hard for the rights of people who are housed and who are safe and who are not worrying about survival. Everybody's watching you, and we actually see what you're doing. We're seeing where your priorities are. I know Mr. Bonin is sitting in the room right now. Mr. Bonin, I want you to pressure your colleagues to start to grow signs and consciences, because we're talking to this Plum Committee. This committee is historically totally corrupt, and you all know that. And we're looking at you. Please stand up. You need to prioritize housing for people who do not have housing. You need to stop prioritizing visiting neighborhood council members, Mr. Blumenfield, and campaigning for your constant criminalization of homelessness, okay? So I know that's off topic, but I had to squeeze it in there because I know where you're going to be tonight, too. It's shameful of you. Wake up. You want to be reelected? Start acting on the part of constituents. We are not asking for more loopholes for millionaires. We are asking for you guys to put everything down and start focusing on housing today. And Mr. Harris Dawson, also pay attention to Crenshaw, downtown Crenshaw, okay? Thank you.
That's your time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 8134, please press star 6 to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello? Okay, great. Hello, my name is Barbara Brady. I would like to speak on items numbers 7 and 9. That would be the temporary wall sign measure. I am speaking to support actions to increase enforcement on the temporary wall sign measure. However, I am troubled. I'm speaking on behalf of the Coalition for Scenic Los Angeles, also known as the Coalition to Ban Billboard Blight. We are concerned about the provision that would allow temporary wall signs around operating businesses. This does not make any sense. If there is an operating business on the premises, there should be efforts to maintain the property in proper and clean order without graffiti and trash. Furthermore, there needs to be a graduated scale of penalties on these signs for those who do not follow the ordinance and the rules. People in Venice have a wall up that has been cited 6 times now, and it is still up. So there are loopholes in the program that need to be addressed. These signs create blight when they are not properly regulated. And it's important. I've submitted a letter which has other suggestions to strengthen the ordinance, and we certainly hope that you will look at the letter and consider those things. They have to do with security and other measures that would improve the program significantly. On item number 9, the short-term rentals for vacation homes. When this was originally conceived in the City Planning Commission, there was absolutely no pandemic, no COVID known, and this was considered at an entirely different time. There are now public health issues to take into account. There's the housing situation to take into account. And there is the notion that this is an unenforceable mandate. There is no way that inspectors will be able to know whether a vacation home is truly a second vacation home or a house purchased to be rented as a short-term rental. Person can buy a home, stay in it a week, not stay in it a week. There is no way to enforce this measure.
That's your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller 2713. Please press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Sandra Rivas, and I'm calling to let you know that it's very unfair that you guys are approving short-term. This is going to affect my community. It's already being affected by having a lot of homeless people outside of the building. This is horrible, and you guys need to stop. You need to listen to the community, that you guys cannot continue to ruin people's lives, also ruin workers' jobs as well. So I'm very, very upset to hear that you guys want to approve those 14 houses for short-term rent. So it's unacceptable. Thank you.
Caller 8408. Please press star 6 to unmute.
Yeah. Hi, I'd like to speak on items 5, 6, and 9, please.
Thank you. You have 2 minutes.
Great. So for 5 and 6, I think that, there's a member on this committee who shouldn't be allowed to vote on this item or any other, but I think especially for appointments to the area planning commissions, every vote and meeting that you allow City Staffer B. John Lee to participate in, just taints this entire committee with his horrific corruption. I mean, we know that he was in Vegas. We know he was there with Councilmember Englander. We know that he coordinated with Councilmember Englander to backdate a check after he was questioned by the FBI. Allowing him to participate in this meeting, any other meeting, but especially when it comes to appointing members, taints not only you, but them with the corruption that he has perpetrated. And you all honestly ought to be deeply embarrassed that you continue to allow him to sit on this committee and participate in any way. If not for the gift from the FBI of revealing his involvement after his March primary, we all know that he wouldn't even be sitting on this council. So, please just get rid of yourself. John Lee, resign. For item 9, the answer is 0. Not a single non-primary resident should be allowed to be used as a short-term rental. Not higher fees, not fewer permits. You need to stop this from happening. I mean, the motion doesn't even know how many of these units exist. It has a margin of error of 4,000, which is 10% of our city's unhoused population. If you can't even collect reliable data, how are we supposed to trust you to implement effective policy on this issue? You need to take a page out of Councilmember-elect Roseman's book and put in place a rental registry so you know what it is we're dealing with before you proceed on, giving away and taking valuable housing out of the market for short-term rentals and simply profits for landlords. It's unconscionable. We are in this mess because of the failures of this committee and your policy failures.
That's your time.
So you really need to step up and not do this.
Caller with the number ending in 3089, please press star 6 to unmute. (3089).
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Tony D. Trinidad, and I am a representative from the Painters and Alley Trades, District Council 36. And we're actually calling in support of the vacation rental ordinance. The Painters and Alley Trades, District Council 36, and Airbnb have a partnership focused around creating good jobs and supporting reasonable STR policies around the nation. In fact, Airbnb is currently in discussions with us and other construction unions in LA County to finalize a partnership agreement. This partnership will allow us to participate in the private home market and also enter into a project labor agreement with us in future real estate development projects at Airbnb that Airbnb invests in. We are stakeholders in the short-term rental market in the city of Los Angeles. Therefore, we urge your support for vacation rental ordinances. Thank you on behalf of our membership, and we urge your support. Thanks. Bye.
Caller with the number ending in 9597, can you please press star 6 to unmute?
Hi, my name is Maria Buenrostro, and I just wanted to say we don't need no more vacation rentals on item number 9. We need more housing for the homeless. I live here in downtown LA, and my street is flooded right now with the homeless population. And hearing the subject about vacation rentals really is annoying. You guys are focusing on providing vacation rentals, and this is right now COVID, and definitely talking about this, you guys need to really skip this. We are flooded here with people that need homes, that need shelters, and this is really ridiculous to really focus on downtown LA, how it looks, and it's annoying. I have no words. Right now, I'm housing actually a person that's homeless because there is no homes. How can we think of vacation rentals? I really don't understand this. So please focus on what's priority here, on the homeless, not on vacation rentals, okay?
There's no room for this. There's no regulations. There is no parking here in the city. There's no room for this. Please, focus on that. And that's it. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 2175. Can you please state your name and the items you wish to speak on? 2175.
Have we exhausted our multiple item callers?
No, we have about 20 callers who were on the queue for multiple comment. Caller 1340, can you please state your name and the items you wish to speak on? (1340). Can you please state your name and the items you wish to speak on? Caller with the number ending in 6822, can you please state your name and the items you wish to speak on? Can you please press *6 to unmute?
Hi, this is Graciela Gomez. I'm calling on behalf of the homeless population as well and the Airbnb regulations. I also think it's kind of sad how you guys want to focus on more vacational homes than anything that has to do with the homeless program or people that need to be sheltered in this code now. And Airbnb regulations are kind of unfair, not only for people that are traveling from across the world and things like that, but people that work at hotels. You guys need to see what would be better for everybody to actually settle in, not just for people that are actually taking a vacation, but for people that need the money, people that are single moms, people that are single parents, to be exact. And the homeless population is rising and rising as the years go by, and downtown LA is flooded, not even just downtown LA, but you look everywhere in LA and there's always somebody at the corner building up their own little homes and things like that. And I mean, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Caller 1642. Can you please press *6 to unmute and then state your name and the items you wish to speak on?
Hi, my name is Jose de la Torre. I'm from San Gabriel, city of San Gabriel. I'm calling you because there is a
Sir, which items would you like to speak on?
9. Airbnb.
Oh, we're not taking single items right now. This is for multiple items.
Well, actually, it's multiple because it's not affecting only to the rooms. It's affecting to the food industry, the restaurants, and.
Sir, I mean the item itself. So this is for items, multiple items.
Okay.
So if you wait later when we get to item 9, you can give your comment.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay, so just wait on the call, and when we get to item 9, we'll call on you. Caller 6333, can you please press star 6 to unmute?
Hi, I'm here to speak on items 9 and 10.
10 is continued, ma'am, and number 9, we'll be taking number 9 when we do the single items. This is for multiple items.
Oh, okay. Cool, I'll call back then.
No, you can wait on the call. We'll get to you.
Oh, I'll call for number.
Caller with the number ending in 6262, can you please press star 6 to unmute?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you please state your name and the 2 items you'd like to speak on?
My name's Anne. I'm calling to speak on items number 7 and 9. Hello?
Hi, ma'am. You have 2 minutes.
Okay. First off, just to say, so my name's Anne. I am a member and volunteer with No Olympics LA, as well as the LA Tenants Union and Homes Not Hotels campaign. For item 7, stop putting up billboards. They're stupid. Once in a while they're funny, but who cares? Really what I want to focus on is item number 9, this loophole for Airbnbs. I am glad that I made it into public comment because I have to leave in a few minutes to head over to Boyle Heights City Hall and Kevin DeLeon's office to try to sort through this absolute nightmare of a rent relief program that city council put together. It's not really shocking, but still kind of horrifying that this is the second loophole for Airbnb that city council has been trying to push through since COVID started. We've had one rent relief program that's a huge failure. The city council has had the power to cancel rent the entire time this pandemic has started. And then even beneath that, there's so much else that you all could have done. And it's, just fully on display what your priorities are. Renters are struggling and suffering, as people have been mentioning. Our homelessness crisis is at an all-time high. And to prioritize and continue to push through these loopholes and just finding whether it's, the enforcement, whether it's, creating loopholes for second homes, we just need you to take decisive action and put an end to it and communicate to Airbnb that the priority right now is keeping people housed and getting people into housing, because there's no vaccine. The only cure and treatment for COVID is staying home. So you should be doing everything in your power to keep people housed and get people housed, not to create loopholes for people who are so wealthy that they own 2 homes, and to create loopholes for companies like Airbnb that exacerbate the existing housing crises within cities and lead to accelerated gentrification. So that's all for my comment.
Thank you, ma'am. That's your time. Caller 3184. Can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself?
Hello, my name is Cesar de la Cruz. I would like to speak in item number 9.
So this is for callers who would like to speak on multiple items.
I wait. That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Caller with the number ending in 6772. Can you please press *6 to unmute? Then state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hi, my name is Michelle. I mostly want to speak on 9, but I'll comment on 8 just so I can get my hands in. Looks like you're trying to build a new building with more homes. Great. It's a huge unit or huge building. I hope that they also have rent or RSO imposed on them, regardless of the year when it was born, because I own a duplex that's old and falling apart sometimes, and I have those limitations, even though they're much harder for me to afford. My main comment was I wanted to speak up on behalf of the vacation rental situation. I used to Airbnb my extra unit, and it helps a lot, mainly because my last tenants were horrible people. They were bad, and it's so hard to get rid of them with this RSO that I can't take that risk, especially now. Like, it's not creating more housing to not let me rent out my extra house. It just makes it harder for me to afford it, because I can't just take off. I'm not going to take homeless people off the street. I can't do that, and I need somebody who has a good job, who has good credit, who has reliability and is clean and respects rules and laws. And I have a full-time job. I don't have time to be a full-time landlord and be going through lawsuits to get people evicted when they're bad. And I also don't have $8,000 to pay them to leave my house when I need it for my my mother-in-law. Like, I have a baby now who has multiple birth defects. She had to come stay with us. I'm lucky my tenant voluntarily left during COVID. Otherwise, I have no room for her in my 540 square foot house. I'm not a millionaire. Buying a duplex is how you afford to live in LA, by getting some rental income. And Airbnb made it great because I never had to commit long term to bad tenants. I never had to have my financial security depend on whether or not those people are going to pay rent for these 6 months. And I lose my house. Like, renters have the freedom that if they want to, they can leave and go live somewhere else. I don't. I'm committed to it. And taking my ability to Airbnb away from me just means that I either have to gamble on a tenant who's going to squat in my house for months and or ruin it.
Thank you, ma'am. That's your time.
All right. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 9849. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? And then state your name and the 2 items you'd like to speak on.
Hi. I assumed I just was speaking on item 9. Are we not there yet?
We're not there yet, sir.
Oh, great. Okay, so I just keep holding then?
Correct. Caller 5145. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself and then state your name and the 2 items you'd like to speak on? Caller 5145. Can you please press *6 to unmute?
I would like to speak on item 9.
Ma'am, this portion of the meeting is for the callers who'd like to speak on multiple items.
Okay, I'll wait. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 6805. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? Caller with the number ending in 6805. Can you please press *6?
Buenas tardes. ¿Puedo hablar en español?
Buenas tardes. ¿En qué artículo quiere hablar? ¿El 9?
Quiero hablar sobre el artículo 9.
¿Tiene otro artículo bajo el que quiere hablar? ¿O solo el 9?
Solamente el 9.
¿Perdón?
Solamente el artículo 9.
Entonces le vamos a pedir que se espere un ratito. Ahorita estamos tomando los artículos múltiples. No vaya a colgar, quédese en la junta y cuando empecemos a hablar sobre el artículo 9, entonces la vamos a llamar otra vez. ¿De acuerdo?
Sí, está bien, gracias.
Gracias. Go ahead, Aiden.
Caller with the number ending in 9246, can you please press *6 to unmute and then state your name and the 2 items you'd like to speak on?
Hi, my name is Stacy Shore, and I'm calling to speak on items number 7 and 9. Regarding number 7, the temporary signs, I also would like to agree with the previous comments made by Barbara Brady. I am particularly concerned about blight and the effect on neighboring businesses. I'd like to see a strengthening of enforcement of the ordinance that we have in place. Regarding number 9, we need more housing, less short-term rentals. The Los Angeles Tourism and Convention Board assessed data from the Beverly Hills, West LA, and local West Side area, and determined at the current time there is an occupancy rate of only 44.4%, and in the Santa Monica, Marina, Venice local area, it's 44.8%, the 2 lowest in any area that they reviewed data for. There is, especially during COVID, less demand for short-term rentals. However, the demand for housing has never been greater and more urgent. I'd also like to thank Council Members Bonin and Koretz for attending and hope that they will add their weight behind a no vote on any such measure that would allow rental of second homes in the face of the need for more housing, not less. Thank you very much.
Caller with the number ending in 6441, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself and then state your name and the 2 items you'd like to speak on?
Hello, my name's Abby Coleman. I'm a volunteer with Los Angeles Tenants Union, the West Side Local, and the Olympics, calling to comment on items number 7 and 9.
You have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So number 7, stop putting up all these signs on operating businesses. Too much to look at, hurts my eyes. And item number 9, stop carving out loopholes in the home sharing ordinance, please. I heard Bonin and Koretz are here. I've talked to tenants in both of your areas who have either been displaced or are currently being displaced in exchange for Airbnb tenants. Heard that landlady talking earlier. I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for her, but also just wanted to bring to your attention that most of these landlords do own multiple apartment buildings, and a lot of them own more than one apartment building and are currently completely going against the home sharing ordinance that already exists. Please listen to organizations like Olympics and Keep Neighborhoods First that are doing their best to keep track of illegal Airbnbs, which y'all have done a terrible job of, and it seems like haven't even tried. Please focus on more important things, for instance, putting these Airbnb hotels back on the housing market so that people can get housed during the pandemic, rent relief, and maybe try and do something about Project Room Key. That's not terrible. I don't know, just some ideas. Okay, I'm done. Next person.
Caller with the number ending in 8695, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself and then state your name and the 2 items you'd like to speak on?
Hello, my name is Chantal. I'm a resident of Marquesa, and I don't know the numbers, but I want to speak on the homelessness as well as the short-term rental. And I guess my position on this is I'm listening to everybody in here. I'm a single parent who was fortunate enough at a time when my life was very difficult to be able to do short-term rentals on my home. And I feel that this constant connecting the homelessness to short-term rental, I feel that the city has done a pretty good job of creating ordinances and regulations. Believe me, I was a short-term rental manager, and a lot of those Airbnbs shut down. So I've literally lost a lot of income, which is fine because we needed some form of regulation. But the concept that somehow these small Airbnbs, right now I actually have a long-term rental because of COVID-19, but the concept that these single-parent, older people, single-family home Airbnb operators are somehow creating the homeless crisis, I feel is a false narrative that needs to stop, because first of all, the ordinance that was passed, I know a lot of people who are no longer doing Airbnb. There has been a huge cut down and shutdown of Airbnbs in the city of Los Angeles. I don't agree with a lot of it. I feel that it's been a little too harsh. I think that it can be controlled without it being out of control, which it seems like is what the city council is trying to do, and I applaud them for it. But I'm tired of listening to this one-sided narrative about how bad and evil is Airbnb and short-term rentals. I can tell you as a single-family homeowner, the amount of money it costs me to be a host, between the fees, between the taxes, between everything else, it got to the point where it made more sense for me to get a long-term tenant, which will make all of these nayers maybe happy. But at the same time, I just think that narrative needs to stop. I'm tired of hearing about it. Airbnb, quite frankly, saved my life as a single parent, and I might be one of those homeless people had it not been for Airbnb. So I think we need to. Time. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 3320. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Hello, my name is Gordon Brione, and I'm calling about items number 7 and 9. Can you hear me?
You have 2 minutes. We can hear you. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Okay, great. I agree with the previous lady about the number 7. It's too much with the signs. It hurt my eyes. It's just a bit of overkill. I mainly wanted to talk about number 9. I'm a disabled physician here in Los Angeles. I'm in my mid-50s. I made a business plan as an investor in Los Angeles, and my partner is a real estate agent, and we sold our large home in Palm Springs and bought a duplex in Los Angeles and created an Airbnb model that was working so fantastically. And I was a vector that was helping people retransplant here and be the landing pad they could have to rent long-term or purchase a home and become new Los Angelinos. Lots of international people were doing that. I'm doing that right now. But my business has fallen off a cliff, literally. And I'm a mom and pop organization. I don't own multiple apartment buildings. This false narrative, like the last speaker was talking about linking Airbnb and homelessness, is false. It's a false narrative. One has nothing to do with the other. I do one service, have committed time, money, pay an exorbitant amount in taxes to do that, and I augment the tourism business, which also creates tax money and a tax base for the city by bringing in people that stay for 20 days or something from out of the country that could no longer afford. They couldn't just stay at the W Hotel for 20 days. They couldn't afford that. So it just brings in an additional group of people either relocating or traveling here that enjoy and pay and spend money here. And I was part of that until the city council passed those ridiculous 30-night minimum.
Thank you, sir, for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 8549. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? Caller 8549. Can you please press *6 to unmute? Caller 6988. Can you please press *6 to unmute? #6988. Please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, sorry, I accidentally did it for now, but I am just looking to talk about number 9, so I will wait.
Caller with the number ending in 6501. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Yeah, my name's Dan Root. I'm calling in regards to item 9. And yeah, as a professional in this...
We're not taking comment for item 9 right now. This is for multiple items.
Oh, I thought it was on the single item list.
So item 9 is on the single item list, but currently we're not on the single item list.
Oh, okay. I thought I made that clear. I will call back.
Or you can just stay on the line. You don't need to hang up and call back.
Okay.
Caller 0206. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Hi, yes, Susan Hunter. I'm calling on behalf of Housing Human Right as well as Los Angeles Tenants Union, Hollywood Local. I'm calling in regards to items 8 and 9.
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Yes, I just want to point out with item, and I think the reason why these two connect so well, with item number 8, there's nothing that says or prevents this applicant from doing a future track map to create these units and make them into condos, which could then easily be used as a vacation rental and a de facto hotel. I understand that there are a lot of concerns about how commercial operation and use of Airbnb by bad operators has increased our homeless numbers by reducing housing units that are available. And I think the compromise on item number 9 to address this is two-part. One, we should not allow anybody to do any kind of home sharing or vacation rental if it's an LLC. I think this should only apply to natural persons, so then that way we can cut out those bad operators. Secondly, I don't think that any kind of vacation rental should be allowed to be done in any kind of a structure that has seeked entitlements to go past what the zoning allows by citing a housing crisis. If we're going to allow people to build past what the zoning allows and have more housing, then it needs to be used for housing. So in any structure that has done either a height density, zone change, FAR increase, absolutely should not be allowed to be used for any kind of vacation rentals. It should only be used for the type of structure it was built to be, which is housing the people that we need. We can't cite a housing crisis and then turn around and use it for something else. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.
Caller with the number ending in 1984. Can you please press *6 to unmute and then state your name and the 2 items you'd like to speak on?
Hi, I'm calling on item number 9.
Okay, so we will call on you when we get to item number 9. Right now we're doing multiple comment.
Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 3892. Can you please press *6 to unmute?
Hi, my name is Eric. I'm a volunteer with the Olympics LA and Homes and Hotel Coalition. I'd like to speak on 7 and 9.
You have 2 minutes, sir.
Hi, for 7, yeah, there's no need for more billboards and more signs. It's just unneeded propaganda, and there's just no need for it right now. There's already too many signs with unneeded eyesores on the city, and yeah, there's no need for it. Moving on to number 9, I'm just going to go ahead and say no on item number 9. Just so everyone here is clear, Many people are under the impression that Airbnb is a website and an app primarily used for renting out spare rooms in their primary residence. This is simply not the case. The app is frequently used by landlords to run what are de facto hotels and units that are zoned for residents. Far too often, what is happening is entire buildings full of tenants are being evicted, or rents have been raised higher than anyone would realistically be expected to pay, so that landlords can convert these hotels into hotel rooms. The lawyer for a landlord attempting to do this at 1936 South Westwood Boulevard in Westwood admitted to doing this on a planning commission call last week out loud as she attempted to convince the commissioner that the building should be converted to a boutique hotel from its former apartment transitioned to an unaffordable Airbnb hotel. How did this happen? Didn't the passage of the HSO in 2019 mean that most Airbnb hotels or the renting of vacant apartments units on sites like Airbnb should have been shut down? No. In reality, most Airbnbs of this type stayed on the market because this regulation has not been enforced. Failure to enforce the existing ordinance has led to widespread displacement as buildings have been converted to Airbnb operations, as mentioned before. The burden is on tenants to stop illegal hotel conversions and evictions. Imagine doing this while you work, you have a family, during a fucking pandemic where you're trying not to die. The city has not demonstrated it can adequately enforce the existing ordinances or willingness to devote the necessary resources to enforcement and supporting tenants facing an eviction and harassment. We cannot keep prioritizing tourism over tenants, especially as we are in the middle of a historic eviction tsunami. There are 70,000 vacant hotel rooms in Los Angeles. There are 93 vacant homes. 8 out of 10 hotel rooms in the USA are vacant. This carve-out being proposed today will make it more right for abuse. Los Angeles. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 1495. Can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself and then state your name and the items you wish to speak on? Caller 1495. Caller 8255. Can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself and then state your name and the 2 items you wish to speak on?
Yes, I wish to speak on item number 9 and general public comment.
So we aren't taking general public comment, and item 9 needs to be heard when we do single items. So do you mind just waiting on the call until we get to item 9?
Thank you.
And that concludes our callers for multiple items.
Thank you so much. That takes us to the remainder of our agenda items, and we'll begin with item number 5, Mr. Mejia.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mejia. There's a request that we start with item number 9 as opposed to the order we stated before. So if we could begin with item number 9.
Yes, item 9, Mr. Chairman. This is a proposed ordinance by the Planning Department to regulate the use of non-primary residences for short-term rentals as vacation rentals and to establish the related fee and fines.
All right, we have a lot of public comment on this item. I'm going to ask the Planning Department to begin our proceedings on this matter with their report, and then we'll go from there.
Great, thank you. Hugla Solomon Carey here. Let me share my screen. Give me one moment, please. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'll be giving a brief overview of the vacation rentals ordinance that was proposed to the Planning Commission and a summary of the actions taken. For a bit of background, the city currently has a regulatory framework for short-term rentals, which is defined as rentals that are 30 consecutive days or less, as established in the Home Sharing Ordinance. This ordinance went into effect in July of 2019 and allows short-term rentals of primary residences only. The purpose of the Home Sharing Ordinance is to allow owners and tenants to share their homes with tourists for short-term stays. Vacation rentals, on the other hand, or rentals of non-primary residents, are currently prohibited. This means if someone owns a dwelling unit which is not occupied, that unit cannot currently be placed on the short-term rental market and must be rented to a long-term tenant. The reason for this current regulatory framework is to protect the city's housing stock for long-term Angelenos. Protecting our city's housing stock for Angelenos continues to be a priority and should remain a policy foundation for the Vacation Rental Ordinance. Therefore, the proposed ordinance would allow only short-term rentals of secondary homes and non-primary residents. With this housing policy framework in mind, planning proposed regulations to govern vacation rentals, which were modified by the City Planning Commission. So I'll first provide an overview of the modified regulations before the committee today, and in coming slides, I will outline the modifications made by the City Planning Commission. Currently, there are limitations on the number of vacation rentals that may be permitted to operate both at the citywide and community plan level geographies. This serves as an overall cap for the overall number of vacation rentals. In addition, to address the potential for concentration, there are two categories of buildings for which limitations would be applied in the ordinance before you. Type 1 buildings are 4 units or less and are limited to 1 unit per building, as well as a 250-foot separation per block face. Type 2 buildings are 5 units and more and are limited to 5% of units or 10 units. Vacation rentals are also prohibited in accessory dwelling units, in units covered by the city's rent stabilization ordinance, and any covenanted affordable housing unit. The ordinance also includes operational standards for vacation rentals, which are intended to limit the occurrence of nuisance issues to the extent possible. It established penalties for permittees who violate the provisions of the ordinance in the form of fines, citations, and permit suspension or revocation process. Lastly, the ordinance limits the number of nights a vacation rental may be operated to 90 days in a calendar year. The regulatory framework for the proposed ordinance mirrored that which was established by the Home Sharing Ordinance, such as permitting, operating, enforcement provisions, including the provisions that listing without a registration number would be a violation. The City Planning Commission considered staff proposed ordinance on December 19th, and the Commission voted to adopt the ordinance with several modifications and directed staff to provide additional information to the committee. The changes are as follows. An increase in the citywide cap of vacation rentals. Planning proposed a cap of 3,625. Commission amended that cap to approximately 14,700, going from 0.25% to 1% of the current housing supply. The Commission also changed the geographic cap from census tract to community plans and increased the amount within each geography from planning's recommended 0.25% to 1% to match the percentage for the citywide cap overall. The number of calendar days a vacation rental could be rented was increased from planning's suggested 30 days to 90 days by Planning Commission. And the required 250-foot separation between vacation rentals in small buildings was modified to indicate that the limit applied per block face and not radially, as was proposed by planning. The Commission also directed staff to provide additional information to Plum for its deliberation. The Commission instructed staff to study the feasibility of limiting eligibility to individuals and individual trusts, making LLCs ineligible. It also directed staff to study the feasibility of requiring specific documentation to ensure the vacation rentals are second homes that owners use themselves periodically as opposed to investment properties. And on the heels of that, the Commission instructed staff to provide more information regarding the tipping point where a short-term rental is more lucrative than a long-term rental. And finally, the Commission requested staff to study the feasibility of allocating a portion of the fees and or taxes collected to support affordable housing, permanent supportive housing, or housing for those experiencing homelessness. Our report has been transmitted to the Council file for your consideration. This last slide provides a brief overview of the implementation of our current short-term rental program, which is currently for home sharing of primary residences again. The new API or Application Program Interface, please note that that name is corrected on the slide, was launched in August 2020 2020. Enforcement of the current HSO ordinance began in November 2019 with warnings and citations, which resulted in an approximate 64% decrease in listings. As a result of warnings, citations, and of course implementation of the API, the number of listings went down from some 36,000 to 7,800. Finally, since the city has now created an API as part of the home sharing ordinance, which is up and running, the department would recommend that the API be used for the implementation of this vacation rental ordinance as well. The director intends to promulgate, in addition, administrative guidelines for vacation rentals, just as we did for the home sharing ordinance that would detail implementation procedures. As such, the department recommends that Section 1222A34B be amended to add a definition for administrative guidelines to read as follows. Administrative guidelines. The Department of City Planning may promulgate regulations which may include, but are not limited to, application requirements, interpretation, conditions, reporting requirements, enforcement procedures, and disclosure requirements to implement the provisions and consistent with the intent of this subdivision, and that Section 1222A34G4 read, subject to applicable laws, a hosting platform with listings in the city shall provide to the Department of City Planning on at least a monthly basis, in a format as specified by the city, the vacation rental permit number of each listing, the name of the person responsible for each listing, and for each booking that occurs within the reporting period, the number of days booked. The provisions of this program may also be fulfilled by a hosting platform if it complies with the administrative guidelines issued by the Director of Planning. And further, to ensure compliance, the department recommends that the addition of a provision prior to the effective date under administration read a provision, no person shall fail to comply with the administrative guidelines. In addition, in order to secure enough time to build out an enforcement and implementation system, the department would recommend that a section of the ordinance be added prior to Section 4 severability to state operative date. This ordinance shall become operative 6 months after the City Council adopts its ordinance. We have provided this language to the CLA and the clerk for the record. Finally, we have staff here from DCP, including Bob Duenas and Phyllis Nathanson from the Development Services Center to answer questions related to implementation and enforcement, as well as representatives from HCIDLA, ACE, and LADBS. Thank you, and that concludes our presentation.
All right, thank you for your report. We'll begin our public comment section by hearing from a few members of the council who've joined us for this meeting. They're working overtime, sitting through this committee. We have from Council District 5, Mr. Paul Koretz. Unmute yourself, Councilman.
Oh, but I said all that great stuff and you missed it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Short-term rentals of vacation properties is a terrible idea to begin with, but these amendments just make it that much worse. First of all, it will take many thousands of rental units and rental housing off the market and instead provide unneeded hotel and vacation housing. We could use those thousands of units as we have a massive housing shortage that has helped to put over 30,000 people on the streets in Los Angeles. While COVID has devastated the hotel industry and we have a massive number of available hotel units and thousands of employees who are out of work, there's no need and no advantage to allowing vacation rentals. Especially with our homeless crisis, this is not the time. It also creates a greater likelihood of party house usage. One of the main reasons we require primary residence, which I fought for in the original ordinance, is the likelihood that the owner being present is unlikely to allow large, troublesome parties to take place in their home. Also, we're at the worst point of a massive pandemic. Every one of these parties has unrelated people, usually without masks and social distancing. And every one of these parties is a potential super spreader event. Also, violence sometimes accompanies these parties. In my district, shootings and deaths have occurred at these parties as well. As it is, our enforcement is so difficult in CD5 that we have dedicated LAPD party cars that just visit party houses that are known trouble spots and additional ones that pop up on a day-to-day basis. Even without COVID, these party houses are huge nuisances and disruptors, as you all know. I'm still waiting for the Department of City Planning to process an ICO that I put into motion to prohibit congregation and short-term rentals and a one-strike rule for violations. Also, I think the Planning Department needs to explain to all of us how this proposal is consistent with the housing element of the general plan. Department efforts at enforcement are improving, but they're not yet close to satisfactory, and this will make it much, much harder to enforce. I have absolutely no idea why it would be necessary to adopt an ordinance today when travel is discouraged, hotel workers are out of work, and thousands of people are living on the street. We can expect little or no increase in TOT revenue from vacation rentals with all the more reasonably priced hotel space for the foreseeable future. Meanwhile, COVID cases keep skyrocketing in LA County, and the idea that we're considering a vacation rental policy in the midst of a housing crisis and a global pandemic is, in my view, irresponsible and unforgivable. This will be an embarrassment and a black eye for the city, and I don't believe that we're in need of another one. I ask you to oppose this vacation rental ordinance in totality, and if not, certainly these amendments.
Thank you so much, Mr. Koretz, for that clear and piercing testimony. Mr. Mike Bonin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, colleagues, for the time today. Thank you, Mr. Koretz, for your comments proceeding. I agree with Mr. Koretz, and I would strongly urge this committee to reject the proposal before you today, and I'll do so for a couple of reasons. I think what is before us today in this proposal runs absolutely counter to a number of very important and frequently stated policy objectives of this city council. One, this body has repeatedly stated that it, while trying to add more affordable housing, wants to preserve and protect existing affordable housing. This will cause a reduction in affordable rental housing in the city of Los Angeles. On its face, it will do that. Two, this council has stood pretty well united in being opposed to exclusionary zoning policies in the city of Los Angeles. And this council has been very strongly in favor of making sure that homeless housing and affordable housing gets built in every council district and in every part of the city. That is something that I have agreed with and something I have stood for and something that I have fought for. I will tell you with absolute confidence and certainty that if this goes into effect, there will be a dramatic impact upon rental housing in the coastal zone in the communities I represent, particularly in Venice, but also in communities like Playa del Rey and other communities in my district. It will actually move us backwards from a place that the city has stated it wants to be going. And three, this council has for a number of years in a variety of different ways said that it wants to stand up for the hotel workers in the city of Los Angeles. This proposal before us will harm hotel workers in the city of Los Angeles. The hotel industry in LA is in a tailspin. Workers have been laid off. They are going hungry. They are on the verge of homelessness. They are in dire and desperate straits. And this will make their recovery harder by creating yet another pipeline of competition to the hotel industry in Los Angeles. There are some who may say, well, Bonin's being hyperbolic. There are all these provisions in the plan. There's this requirement. There's this cap. There's this qualification. I would submit to you, colleagues, that those things are effectively meaningless because they won't be enforced. One, on a good day with a flush budget, the city of Los Angeles, let's be honest, does a pretty lousy job of enforcing its planning regulations. With a $600 million deficit facing the city of Los Angeles, we know that the enforcement arm of the planning department and of the city is going to suffer. It is an absolute guarantee, an unfortunate one, but a guarantee nonetheless. And not only will this ordinance in and of itself be difficult, if not impossible to enforce, it will take for those of you my generation or older, a bottle of whiteout and pour it upon the short-term rental regulations in the city. For those younger, it's going to take the delete key and it's going to completely eliminate that ordinance. We struggled with the short-term rental ordinance for 4 damn years to get it passed. And one of the things that we all struggled with was how do we make it enforceable? Because we acknowledge the city does a crappy job with enforcing a lot of stuff. And so we made the enforceability as simple as possible. And it was premised upon the idea that the only way to make it enforceable was a single and very clear standard. And that was primary residence only. That ordinance has been effective in getting the good actors out of the short-term rental game. A lot of them have gotten out because they want to follow the law. It has not been particularly effective at getting the bad actors out of the short-term rental game. To the extent that the city ever intends to enforce the short-term rental ordinance better and aggressively, this will render it absolutely unenforceable. There will be no way to enforce it. So as we consider this proposal, I'd ask 2 questions. One, what problem are we trying to solve? And I, for the life of me, can't figure out what problem we are trying to solve with this ordinance. But 2, what problems do we know will be exacerbated as a result of this? And we know that several of them will be exacerbated. Rental housing will be reduced. We will wind up having less affordable and rental housing in the coastal zone, and we will be making it harder for hotel workers in the city of Los Angeles. Whenever we do something around housing, we always get some stories told that are genuine stories, that are heartfelt stories by people who may be the proverbial mom and pop landlord when we discuss rental stuff, or the person who's genuinely trying to do home sharing when we did the short-term rental ordinance. And we heard a few of those calls today. I would submit that the number of those people are very small indeed, compared to the number of people who will suffer as a result of this proposal going into place. And the ones who will benefit from this are not the mom and pops that we heard from, but some of the LLCs or the short-term rental industry whose interests do not align with our stated interests of trying to protect affordable and rental housing in Los Angeles. The ones who will suffer are hardworking and struggling Angelenos at a time when they are facing some of the worst circumstances of any of our lifetimes. So I would concur with Mr. Koretz and ask that this proposal be turned down in its entirety. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bonin. I want to give members an opportunity to speak now if they'd like to, or we can go through public comment and folks can speak after that. Pleasure of the members. Any takers to speak now or ask questions of staff now? All right. Seeing none, we'll go to we'll read some amendments into the record that Mr. Mejia will read, and then we will have public comment on this item. So now is the time to press *9 if you're going to want to speak on this. If you are on the line and you want to speak on item 9, you're going to press *9 now. Mr. Mejia, if you could read the instructions, the proposed instructions into the record.
Yes, sir. I will read them as follows. Number 1, request the city attorney to prepare and present an ordinance with the following amendments. Approve the following amendments contained in the city planning staff report dated October the 15th, 2020, and amend the proposed ordinance as follows. Require the applicants to provide federal tax forms, Schedule A or E, at the time of applying to ensure the property is a secondary home and not an investment property. 2, modify language stating that, quote, no person or entity may apply for or otherwise operate more than one vacation rental at a time in the city, unquote. 2, no, as follows, and also, no individual or trust may apply for or otherwise operate more than one vacation rental at a time in the city. Number 3, approve the following amendments to the proposed ordinance as recommended by the Planning Department on November the 12th, 2020, as stated by the senior planner who made the presentation. Reduce the number of nights for vacation rentals from 90 days to 60 days a year. Amend section 1222A 34B of the Municipal Code to add a definition for administrative guidelines to read, administrative guidelines. The Department of City Planning may promulgate regulations which may include but are not limited to application requirements, interpretations, conditions, reporting requirements, enforcement procedures, and disclosure requirements to implement the provisions and consistent with the intent of this subdivision. Additionally, the Planning Department recommends including the following provision after administrative guidelines to include: no person shall fail to comply with the administrative guidelines. Amend section 1222A 34G for the Municipal Code to read: subject to applicable laws, a hosting platform with listings in the city shall provide to the Department of City Planning on at least a monthly basis in a format as specified by the city, the vacation rental permit number of each listing, the name of the person responsible for each listing, and for each booking that occurs within the reporting period, the number of days booked. The provision of this paragraph may also be fulfilled by a hosting platform if it complies with the administrative guidelines issued by the Director of Planning. And finally, instruct the City Administrative Officer in conjunction with the Planning Department to report back in 15 days with projected revenues for the ordinance as amended. This concludes the language, Councilor.
He wasn't doing too well.
I have concluded, Councilman.
All right, thank you. All right, that takes us to public comment on item number 9. Hopefully you've pressed star 9.
Caller 093. Wait. Caller 0973. Can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Omar Galindo, and I am a member at the Southern California Pipe Trade, UA District Council 16. We urge you to support the vacation rental ordinance. Southern California Pipe Trade, UA District Council 16, and Airbnb have a partnership focused around creating good jobs. We have created a home service directory which Airbnb hosts use to call our members to come and fix our plumbing and HVAC problems. This is a very innovative way for unionized workers to work in the private home market, which we have been shut out for many decades. This ordinance is a reasonable compromise that will help generate approximately $30 million in additional revenue for the city while also protecting the city's housing stock. On behalf of our members, we urge you to pass the vacation rental ordinance. Thank you.
Caller 9470. Can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself? Caller with the number ending in 9430.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, this is Charlie Carno with Unite Here Local 11, and I just want to express our strong opposition to this ordinance. Look, we spent years crafting regulations to make sure that we didn't lose more housing to short-term rentals. And now, in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of record low hotel occupancy, we could lose over 14,000 residential units to the short-term rental market. That's ridiculous, and we just need to let the ordinance that we fought so hard for work and actually protect our housing. Thank you.
Very quickly to members of the public, we've allotted 60 minutes for public comment on this. We see people calling in. continuing to call in. So it'll be limited to 60 minutes. So when you're called on, please get in, speak as fast as you can, as quickly as you can, and you do not have to take the entire 60 seconds. We want to get to as many people as we can. Thank you.
Hello?
Sorry, I think you're done with your public comment, correct?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Thank you. Caller with the number ending in 1072, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Hi, my name is Brady Roberts. I am a pastor in Los Angeles. I'm also a community organizer with Unite Here Local 11 and a resident of Koreatown. I live in the heart of the city, and I have seen every day during this pandemic the impact and the squeeze that has happened on renters. Our city has an enormous homeless problem and housing crisis for our unhoused neighbors. But we also have a housing crisis facing middle-class workers, families, all up and down my street. At the end of every month, people are being put out, and there's no place for them to go. It is unconscionable at this time that the city would consider extending the possibility to take 15,000 units out of the market. It impacts our communities in really terrible ways, and it also impacts the members that I'm so proud to walk beside, the hospitality workers that have built the wealth of the city's tourism industry. If people need to come to Los Angeles to stay, they should stay in one of the many empty hotel rooms and leave those houses open for our neighbors who want to stay here and build this community together. Short-term rentals undermine the fabric of communities by creating transient groups that come in and out instead of allowing us to build relationships as neighbors. And that's not the kind of city that I want to live in. That's not the kind of city that we're all working together to build. I know that the members of council who are on this committee value those things too. And so I hope that you will vote for the continued growth and strengthening of our community of Los Angeles and vote against this. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 1516. 1516.
Persona con el número 1516, por favor.
Hello?
Hi. Hello, sir. We can hear you. You can begin your comment.
Okay. My name is Jeff Cowan. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. I manage vacation rentals, and vacation rentals provide jobs and help support my family and my employees' families. The idea that vacation rentals somehow cause more homeless or worsen the housing crisis is completely ridiculous. It's a false choice. If you look at the numbers of vacation rentals, it's a fraction of a % of the housing stock. There's one way where we can make this a win-win for everyone. We need to legalize vacation rentals, tax them, and then use the $50 million a year, yes, $50 million a year in tax revenue that TOT brings in, and earmark that for the homeless. That would actually help so many people save their jobs and would actually make a dent in the homeless crisis. But the idea of getting rid of Airbnb and that helping the homeless or helping the housing crisis is completely ridiculous. So please legalize it and tax it and bring it all above ground. Thank you very much.
Caller with the number ending in 5145. Can you please press *6 to unmute?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Liliana Hernandez, and I'm a hotel worker who was laid off in March because of the pandemic. In the middle of a pandemic, with no job, I'm trying to keep up with my rent and bills every month, scared of maybe losing my home. Many of us are on the verge of homelessness, and the Los Angeles City Council must vote no on this loophole and instead focus on the thousands of Angelinos and families like myself who have been hardest hit by this pandemic.
Now more than ever, we need city leaders to advocate for us, not for the ultra wealthy. Adding nearly 50,000 short-term rentals units does nothing to help us. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 8672. 8672, can you please press star 6?
Hi, my name is Gia Lappy. I was actually on the call for the multiple item agenda, so is it possible for me to get those 2 minutes without cutting into everyone else's time?
No, ma'am. Right now we're doing single items for just for item number 9.
Okay. Well, I was in the queue and didn't get that, but okay. When does my time start?
Your time starts.
Okay, great. Yeah, so just want to say thank you to everyone who's called, and Mr. Cedillo, I'm glad that you're living the dream, according to you, on this call. But it seems like you're neglecting most of your responsibilities by doing that in the midst of this pandemic. I don't know how you can, sleep at night thinking that you're doing your job in any way right now. I think the not 2 minutes thing. But anyway, there are over 40,000 people living on the streets right now. It's getting worse and worse by the day because of this pandemic, and I cannot believe we are even having a conversation about this item number or this item when it was written before a global pandemic. It was already cruel before, and now it's just absurd. We need homes, not hotels. We need homes, not Airbnbs. We need...
Ma'am, that's your time.
Okay.
Mr. President, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Cedillo?
Since my name was invoked, I do love my job, and it is my dream. But I would like to note also that my district is the only district that has reduced homelessness. We've reduced it 4%. All the other districts have increased homelessness 16%. We haven't solved the problem. We're working hard to solve the problem. We are committed to solving the problem. But I believe that taking advantage of our experiences and our strategies, that we are making progress. We won't solve all these problems, but we will commit to working hard each and every day to do that. And to do that with an open ear and an open heart and an open mind. And that means that we are willing to listen to all parties, but rely on our experience and our best judgment to move forward. And thank you.
Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 5174. Please press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Jonah Breslau, and I'm a research analyst at the Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy. As many have stated, I'm strongly opposed to this measure. We absolutely do not need to provide additional benefits for the ultra-wealthy, for the owners of second homes in Los Angeles. So many people are struggling, as you've heard on this call, and what we need is long-term housing for residents, not tourist rentals. I urge you to reject this ordinance. Thank you very much.
Caller with the number ending in 0573. Can you please press star 6 to unmute?
Hello, am I unmuted?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. My name is Ellen Evans. I am the president of the Doheny Sunset Plaza Neighborhood Association. The home sharing ordinance has not stopped the rental of second homes. We know of many instances where permits are given, but neighbors know that the owner does not live there, not only not for 6 months, but not at all and not ever. This has to be cleaned up. Allowing yet more short-term rentals will result in two things for us: more vacant homes and more party houses. Tremendous resources from LAPD, from the neighborhood prosecutor, and from sanitation inspectors are brought now to the party house problem, but it is by no means solved. We've had at least 3 verified incidents of gunshots at parties in 6 months or so. The parties are dangerous, and more short-term rentals will lead to more and more need for resources. In addition, the new edition of the ordinance changed the permit limit area to community plan area. With 1,000 permits now allowed for Hollywood, we can be certain that several hundred, if not the outright majority, will go to homes in our area, removing actual neighbors from such homes by incentivizing use as a hospitality property.
Thank you,
In our neighborhood, we need more neighbors and fewer spec and short-term rental properties. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 3825. Can you please press *6 to unmute?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
My name is Brian Averill. I'm a board member on the Venice Neighborhood Council. I strongly urge you to vote this down. We're obviously in a housing crisis, and we have a looming wave of evictions on the way. The notion that we would take off 15,000 units from the market right now, it's not only illogical, it's also irresponsible, and it's frankly tone deaf. Almost 2/3 of the city are renters. You guys were elected to act for the greater good of Los Angeles. And this motion only benefits those who are wealthy enough to own multiple homes. This will absolutely raise the average rental prices in LA. That's not conjecture. That's just simple economics. I think it's pretty obvious what the right thing to do here is, and I strongly encourage you to oppose this. Thanks.
Caller with the number ending in 3825. $38.25. Caller with the number ending in 1984. 1984. Can you please press *6 to unmute?
Good afternoon. Sorry for the delay. Council members, my name is Heather Roseman, Executive Director of the Hotel Association of Los Angeles. I'd like to start by thanking Council members Bonin and Koretz for their thoughtful and accurate comments today. And secondly, I'd like to start by saying that homes are for families and hotels are for guests. And as such, we urge you to ban all vacation rentals in Los Angeles, as other cities have already set precedent for successful policy regarding short-term rentals. This city is currently in litigation under mediation of Judge Carter, and taking over 14,000 homes off the long-term market may put the city in a worse position. This new ordinance will only undermine the hotel industry's ability to recover from the coronavirus pandemic, and I ask that you consider the many mom and pop hotels with excellent and affordable rooms that will surely be impacted by this ordinance. Taking homes away from Angelinos for short-term rental use will surely decrease the available housing stock, displace hotel workers from their homes, while taking much-needed business away from hotels. I'm calling on you to protect your hotel community and our workers, as we are one of your best assets in economic recovery and one of your biggest partners in protecting LA jobs in the wake of COVID-19. Hotel occupancy levels are at historic lows and will likely not recover for many years. Please remember, as you consider this ordinance,
Caller with the number ending in 5685. Can you please press *6 to unmute?
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Samuel Nieto, and I support the vacation rental ordinance. With this ordinance, by increasing the number of annual nights allowable from 90 to 120, more revenue will be provided for both property owners and our local small businesses. In this coronavirus pandemic, the ordinance provides an opportunity for new revenue source to kickstart the local small business recovery. And most importantly, this ordinance will protect the city's housing stock during a housing crisis by setting the city-wide permit cap at 1%. This maximizes the use of our Los Angeles brand while also protecting its residents. I strongly urge you to pass this vacation rental ordinance. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 8402. Can you please press *6 to unmute?
Yes, hi, my name is Maria Martinez, and I am a member of Unite Here Local 11. I am calling to urge you to strongly oppose this piece of law. We are really, really frustrated and angry. We have been working for years to be able to work with the council members to protect hotel workers' jobs and housing for all of our members in the city of Los Angeles. So again, I urge you to oppose this.
Caller with the number ending in 3320. Can you please press *6 to unmute?
Hello, my name is Gordon, and I have an Airbnb, and I'm continually baffled by the linking of homelessness with Airbnbs, especially mom-and-pop Airbnbs. This is a supplement to a disabled income, and I provide a service that I would never rent to a homeless person for. I would ask that the council members consider increasing the number of nights a host would be able to book from 90 to 120 nights. That would be very helpful to my continued investment in this city of Los Angeles. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Caller with
I'm done.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Caller with the number ending in 8831. Can you please press *6 to unmute?
Good afternoon, honorable council members. My name is Jordan Sisson. I'm a CEQA attorney speaking for Local 11, who opposes this ordinance, which is only a component of a larger city effort for the wholesale legalization of home sharing across the city. This includes 1, the home sharing ordinance, which is already adopted, 2, an amendment to that ordinance related to RSO units currently being considered, and 3, this vacation ordinance before you today. In each instance, the city has used or planned on using a negative declaration to find no CEQA impacts. However, as explained in 2 expert letters submitted by Local 11, this ordinance has cumulative impacts. As explained by a former LA city planner, these ordinances collectively removed over 40,000 homes, rooms, and/or units that could be used for long-term housing. This is not a drop in the bucket, when it's roughly the same amount needed under the city's RENA obligation for deeply affordable units. Also noted by our noise expert, this vacation ordinance alone would cause significant noise impacts on residents around the city. In sum, we respectfully urge you to reject this ordinance until the full impacts of these ordinances are analyzed in a single secret review. Please heed the warning of your fellow council members and say no to this vacation ordinance. Thank you for your time.
Caller 4013.
Hello, council members. I too am sick of the narrative that the short-term rental market is causing homelessness in this city. What's causing homelessness in the city are the special allowances always given to corporate developments, corporate developers. I'm seeing it happen all around me, who tear down single-family homes, tear down duplexes and triplexes to put up these monstrosities with no affordable housing in them. I live in Venice in Council District number 11, and the only thing I've ever agreed with Mike Bonin is what he just said now, is that what's happened with these ordinances is that the good actors have been taken out. So how about we deal with people's primary residences, owner-occupied homes, and allow them to short-term rent their places like the whole commission agreed to revisit over a year ago. Let's deal with that, please. Thank you.
That's your time. Caller with the number ending in 8944. Can you please press *6 to unmute?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Ugo. I'm a proud member of Unite Here Local 11. And we stand opposed to make a modification to the Airbnb law. Over 100 of our members were in Arizona a couple weeks ago, preserving our democracy. And we come home to find that this motion is being passed that is completely going to benefit people's second homes. It's going to water down the enforcement, and it's only helping corporations like Airbnb. This is not only appalling, but it's completely a slap to the face of every single immigrant worker, housekeeper, dishwasher, and cook who went out to Arizona to make sure that we maintain our democracy. So when you think about this, I want you to think about who is going to get hurt. You've heard testimony from our members. It is them who are going to get hurt. Stop siding with multi-billion-dollar corporations and stand with the working class people. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 1617. Can you please press *6 to unmute?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. I just want to speak on item 9. I guess I'm speaking more to the council and all the weirdly astroturf calls that have come from landlords and people that are pro on this amendment. There's a massive housing crisis in Los Angeles. Tens of thousands of folks are sleeping rough on the streets every night. And this kind of ordinance is absolutely connected to that directly. Airbnbs are disgusting, and they're absolutely tanking the rental market for the rest of us. And I find it astonishing that so many pro people have been calling in and being able to get an audience weirdly sandwiched in between all these anti-calls from your actual constituents, from people that actually care. And I just hope that you'll consider no on it.
Caller with the number ending in 2177. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, my name is Jan, and I'm calling in support of number 9. I'm currently employed by a company that provides long-term furnished housing for families and young adults transitioning into living permanently in LA for either business or schooling purposes. We'd be happy to pay a fair share of taxes to help alleviate the burden on houseless folks. However, I don't think that not legalizing long-term or short-term rentals is a good idea for anyone. I understand that housing is important and that all people should be housed, but I don't see how the two are correlated directly. I think that there's been a lot of generalizing on this phone call, and in reality, our business has helped many families establish themselves long-term here in LA, and that is it.
Caller with the number ending in 4262. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? Caller 4262.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Rodney Kobos. I'm the business manager, financial secretary, treasurer with the Southern California Pipe Trades. We urge you to support the vacation rental ordinance. Southern California Pipe Trades and Airbnb have partnered and focused around creating good jobs and supporting reasonable short-term rentals around the nation. You know, I hear a lot about helping the homeless, but in order to help the homeless takes revenue. And with this, the vacation rental ordinance is a reasonable compromise that will help generate approximately $30 million in additional transient occupancy tax revenue for the city while protecting the city's housing stock. So we ask the council to support an increasing the number of annual nights from 90 to 120. And I thank you on behalf of the Southern California Pipe Trades and its members. Thank you.
Caller 2273. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Hani Critch. I am one of the co-founders of Home Share Alliance Los Angeles, HALA, and I just wanted to thank the council members for being here today. And I know there's been many comments, again, correlating, which is the narrative we just keep hearing over and over again. It's a false narrative, unfortunately, that short-term renting in general causes homelessness. It does not cause homelessness, and we can actually see that with the corrected enforcement that started over a year ago. The homelessness has not decreased since the short-term rentals and the mom and pop were stopped in their tracks overnight on November 1st. And there's still homelessness, and it has increased, and the short-term rent is not the cause of that. So that's the first thing. And the second thing that's most important that I think the council members should take into consideration, obviously in support of short-term renting in secondary residences, is that nobody's mentioned these units do not belong to the city, nor are they available for the housing market, as they are intermittently used by the owners. Thank you so much for your time.
Caller with the number ending in 3555. Can you please press *6 to unmute?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Hi, my name is Jason Dilks. I'm a HALA member and CD4 resident speaking on item number 9. I'm an Airbnb host as well, and I do support the passage of a vacation rental ordinance. However, HALA is advocating a few changes, and I want to mention 2 of those right now. HALA is asking that the nightly cap be raised to 305 nights instead of the recommended 90 nights from CPC. These are secondary residences, and they're not available for long-term rentals as they have an owner that's going to be using them for part of the year. Allowing 305 nights of bookings will ensure usage of these residences, have a positive effect on the local community, and ensure the city gets much-needed TOT. We're also asking that owners of RSO units on parcels of 4 or less be allowed to participate in this ordinance. Just to echo the last caller, these units don't belong to the city. RSO owners own those units. They pay for those units. They pay for the upkeep. They should have the same rights as every other host. So these 2 are really, really important. More nights and allowing owners of RSO properties. Thank you for your consideration.
Caller with the number ending in 4073. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Hi, my name is Cynthia Strassman, and I'm with Strategic Actions for a Just Economy. We're a nonprofit in Los Angeles, and we oppose the vacation rental ordinance, and we oppose it along with other housing justice organizations, including the Alliance for Community Transit, Esperanza Community Housing, the Southeast Asian Community Alliance, Koreatown Immigrant Workers Alliance, Power, Venice Community Housing, the Coalition for Economic Survival, TIE CDC, and the Inner City Law Center. And all of our groups represent tenants that have been extremely hard hit by the economic crisis and the pandemic. They're ill, they're in danger of imminent eviction, they're living in very overcrowded conditions that are exceptionally unsafe, and some of them have been relying on LAUSD school lunches to feed their families. And short-term rentals have been empirically demonstrated to exacerbate the housing crisis. And the idea that they're unlinked to this is just really a fantasy. They're directly linked to this. And we need to focus on the problems of the very poor, not create special legislation to benefit affluent property owners right now. And this ordinance wouldn't just fail to support the vulnerable. It creates a loophole in the current home sharing ordinance that would allow unscrupulous landlords to bypass the current regulations.
Caller 4833. Can you please press *6 to unmute?
Good afternoon. My name is Roxanne. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, to be honest, I'm very upset that you guys want to pass a law that is going to be affecting us. We're going to, right now, we're living a crisis very hard with COVID. And right now, we're going to be double with the COVID is going up and up. And I feel that it's very shame if you guys do vote yes for this argument. And I'm against it because I'm a single mom. And luckily for people that have money and can buy more properties and can rental, but that will affect me because right now I can survive with the check that I can afford to pay my rent. And in the future, if my rent goes more and more high, it's going to be affecting it because my check is not enough. And right now, with the crisis, with the COVID, thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 4541. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? 4551.
We'll close that one too. Is it?
Caller 5180.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Desiree, and I support the vacation rental ordinance. The ordinance will help generate $30 million in additional revenue to the city while also requiring property owners to live in the homes on an occasional basis, finding the right balance between housing and our local economy. The smart and safe return of local region travel, along with the legalization of vacation rentals, has the potential to bring a whole new economy to Los Angeles at a time when it's most desperately needed. I strongly urge you to pass the vacation rental ordinance. Thank you.
Caller 6452, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? *5452. Please press *6 to unmute.
Número 6452, oprima la estrella, por favor. Y el 6.
Caller 8255, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi. So my name is Faramaz. I'm a resident of the city of Los Angeles. I'd like to express my agreement with the remarks made by council members Bonin and Koretz. I believe that it's important to uphold the integrity of the City Council's decision last year to restrict short-term rentals to primary residences only. If this change is made, if there will be an economic incentive for purchasing properties to be listed as secondary or vacation homes that are eligible for short-term rental, thus reducing the number of units available for long-term rental. I strongly urge that the committee and the council not approve this proposal. Thank you.
Caller 6414, can you please press *6 to unmute?
Hello?
Hi, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Adelia Valdivia. I'm a member of Unite Here Local 11, and I am calling to urge the council to vote no on the amendment. I am extremely disappointed that once again the council is considering another loophole in the ordinance when we work really hard to establish an ordinance and it hasn't even fully been enforced yet. So I strongly urge the council to vote no on this ordinance. Thank you.
Caller 5436. Caller 5436. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name is James, and I'm calling to ask you to please oppose this. As council members Bonin and Koretz already said, this is insanity to be even considering this in the midst of our total homelessness crisis and the COVID crisis at the same time. I think it's really appalling that Council Member Blumenfeld, at the same time he's considering criminalizing homelessness in the city of Los Angeles, he's also trying to give away more units to people who own more than one home. I think it really shows his priorities, and that he really just puts business interest and probably his donors before the people of Los Angeles. This is absolutely ridiculous. You need to be finding more rooms, using eminent domain to take hotel rooms. That's what you should be focusing on, not people who have multiple properties and they need extra revenue stream. Come on, get it together. Thank you.
Mr. Tom. Caller with the number ending in 6501. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Hi, my name's Dan. I'm a professional in the short-term rental market and a HOLA member. And, I keep hearing this, homelessness issue. Homelessness wasn't created by a short-term rental. Neither was the housing crisis. And we're talking about homes that go vacant most of the year is what we're talking about. I mean, hotels are way down with COVID. Short-term rentals are way up, and it's a changing economy we're in. Either you embrace the future and have a robust city where we have some ROI so housing can be built, or you're left behind. If you want to do some due diligence and look at some other cities that have embraced this, they have robust building and housing. So, in my opinion, half the hotels in the city are really based on yesterday's business model. And
that's your time. Caller with the number ending in 9098. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? Caller with the number ending in 9098. Please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Persona con el número 9098, por favor, oprima la estrella y el 6 para escucharle.
Caller with the number ending in 3363. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? 3363.
Persona con el número 3363.
Hi there. My name is Marcy. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'd like to talk about well, first of all, there's a distinction. I'd like to make a distinction between people who are mom and pop renters on Airbnb and those people who are making a business out of throwing other people on the streets, basically, by absorbing all the available venues, living venues. I have a Airbnb on my property, and I really need to have the rental in this COVID period especially. I'm in the entertainment business. I haven't worked since February, and without my Airbnb, I could not keep going. I need the income. In fact, nobody has talked about the extended sharing. 120 days for somebody like myself is not enough to keep surviving. I've applied for extended sharing, and I'm waiting to hear about that. And I'm waiting to hear. I'm sorry?
Ma'am, that's your time.
That was it? Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 9249, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Nick Gerber. I'm a member of Unite Here Local 11, and I've been a renter in CD10 for more than 7 years. I, too, am appalled that we're back here having this conversation again when you all haven't even begun to enforce the regulations that we spent almost 4 years to win. Airbnb is a tech company funded by the rich to intervene in public markets like housing for private gain. That's it. And you represent all of us that live here. We just saw Uber and Lyft buy labor laws with Prop 22. Apparently, the City Council of Los Angeles and this committee are also for sale. So please do the right thing and stand with your constituents for once and vote against this. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 6772. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Persona con el número 6772, por favor oprima la estrella y el 6 para escucharle.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hi, ma'am. We can hear you.
Sorry, that took a few tries. So I understand not wanting to allow whole buildings to become de facto hotels or allow people to make careers out of renting multiple apartments that they turn around and rent on Airbnb. But I think there are ways you can do that without blanket restrictions on what people can do with their private homes, and forcing them to make long-term rental decisions in times of temporary desperation, like COVID. And why are we giving preference to rich hotel owners over people who have an empty room or an extra unit? Turn those hotels into the homeless housing that everyone's looking for and pay them. You know, they'll have the occupancy and regain some of their revenue. But I'm going to say limiting short-term rentals and even the RSO are not creating more housing. They're not fixing homelessness. I took stuff off the market because of these rules. You're losing housing because I don't have the flexibility I need to protect myself or to have a unit or a room available as I come and go to stay with my kid in the hospital or when I go on vacation. And instead I end up with an empty house, vulnerable to break-ins, while other people still don't have access to it. Or people who are visiting town for work and need something temporary don't have access to what I used to give to them. And I've helped people who are really trying to leave relationships, toxic relationships, and need something immediate and temporary. You're losing that. They're losing that. Excuse me?
That was your...
Okay.
Caller with the number ending in 7135, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Número 7135, por favor oprima la estrella y el 6 para escucharle.
Hello.
Hi, ma'am. We can hear you.
Thank you. My name is Cindy Cleghorn. I'm on the board of the Sunland Tujunga Neighborhood Council. However, I'm speaking for myself. I just quickly want to say that I'm opposed to this because the city fails to educate anyone on any of their new ordinances that pass. They fail to enforce them as well. We have many things that are in place and have been for years that don't get enforced to this day. And we're in a huge budget crunch, and this is way too costly for this city. There are bigger issues that they need to solve. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 7231. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, hi, my name is Kenneth Mejia. I am a member of the People That Actually Give a Damn About Other People group, and I think this is appalling that we are trying to expand vacation rentals to 15,000 units, essentially, right? If you think about who these people are, they own multiple properties, a second property, right? And that's just insane. And economists and even studies have shown that Airbnb rising in cities have led to rising costs because the demand for housing, long-term housing, goes down. You hear people saying, but this will bring $30 million in tax revenue and you could build units. Well, that will only build 50 supportive housing units at $500,000 a cost, which is how much it's taking. You know, we need people to have homes, affordable housing homes, and use eminent domain. You know, buy these second properties off these people, off the hotels. Thank you.
Thank you. Caller with the number ending in 9849, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? Please press *6 to unmute.
Hello?
Hi, we can
Hello?
hear you.
Okay, can I speak?
Yeah, you can speak.
Okay, my name is Robert. I live in Silver Lake, and I'm actually one of these owner-occupier guys. I don't own multiple properties. I know this is kind of what this thing is about, but I just had to say, these people say, oh, you haven't done anything. Are you kidding me? When this thing went into effect, it killed me. I'm ruined. I'm literally, like, completely out of business. I want to follow the rules. I have lived in my own house in Silver Lake that I have a huge debt on. I was able to get a full-time tenant in the granny flat downstairs, so that's full-time. And a bedroom that has its own private bathroom, I was able to get a tenant in there. But I have 2 more bedrooms on the top floor where I live. We all have 1 bathroom. It's been a nightmare to try to get long-term tenants in there. Go and have ads on Craigslist for months. Can I please rent 2 bedrooms simultaneously? The only way to make it work is if I can have overlaps, because most of the time people just stay on the weekends. And it's empty. Right now I got empty rooms. I got a huge mortgage to pay, insurance, and my medical bills. I mean, my God, I'm retired from the film business. I don't even have any retirement. This is all I got, people. I'm not some rich person. I don't own multiple properties. I just need to be able to rent 2 bedrooms at the same time, $365 a year. Please, that's all I'm doing, man. I'm a long-rooted member of my community. I'm not taking any units off the market. I'm being scapegoated and penalized for something I had nothing to do with. So please consider this when you re-examine the home sharing ordinance. Thank you very much.
Caller with the number ending in 8106.
Buenas tardes. Me llamo Norma Pérez.
Buenas.
Yo trabajo para el Intercontinental Los Ángeles.
Norma, discúlpeme. Disculpe, Norma.
Estoy muy molesta porque el concilio ha decidido dañar más a las familias.
I'm upset because the committee has decided to hurt families. Continúe, Norma.
No, estoy hablando de los hoteles con las casas rentables.
I am speaking about the hotels and the homes for rent.
Sí, estoy en el caso 9.
Sí, Norma, yo le estoy traduciendo ahorita. Hable, por favor, una oración a la vez, así yo pueda traducirla al mismo tiempo. Gracias.
Ok, gracias.
Continúe.
Sí. Estoy muy molesta por ello porque estamos pasando la pandemia y todavía sobre esto ellos están rentando casas, están dejando a las housekeepers sin trabajo.
I am very upset about this. I am very upset about this ordinance because in the middle of the pandemic, this is happening. They are forcing housekeepers to lose their jobs.
Les pido de que
Paren de dar estas casas a rentar a largo plazo, a nosotros nos afecta.
I ask you to
Que
please
eliminen
stop
los
the rental of these
existentes.
properties long term because it affects us. Siga.
Muchas gracias, por favor, que tengan buena tarde.
Thank you and have a good afternoon.
Caller with the number ending in 3046. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Buenas tardes, ¿me escucha?
Sí, lo escuchamos. Por favor, hable una oración a la vez, así yo puedo traducirle, ¿sí?
Muchas gracias. Mi nombre es Raquel Esama y soy madre soltera de 3.
My name is Raquel and I am a single mother of 3.
Vivo en el sur centro de la ciudad de Los Ángeles.
I live in south central of the city of Los Angeles.
Y trabajo para el hotel Mr. C en Beverly Hills.
¿Cuál hotel, perdón?
Mr. C en Beverly Hills.
Mr. D. I work for the hotel Mr. C in Beverly Hills.
Y soy miembro de United Local 11.
And I am a member of United Local 11.
Estoy llamándoles para tratar de que hagan conciencia.
I'm calling so that to raise your awareness and consciousness.
Que en estos tiempos de pandemia.
That in this time of this pandemic.
Somos miles de trabajadores que estamos desempleados.
We are thousands of workers who are losing their job.
Y no podemos hacer nada más que esperar a que todo vuelva a la normalidad.
And we can't do anything but wait until everything gets back to normal.
Y podamos volver a nuestros trabajos.
And we can return to our jobs.
Pero ustedes sí pueden. Ustedes son nuestra voz.
But you can. You are our voice.
Y queremos que nos apoyen a nosotros como gente pobre y trabajadora.
And we want for you to support us as working people and poor people.
Y no a las grandes corporaciones que están a favor de Airbnb, de rentas a corto plazo.
And not to the big corporations that are supporting Airbnb for the home rentals.
Eso es todo. Muchas gracias.
And that's all. Thank you very much.
Puse toda nerviosa.
Caller with the number ending in 6333. Please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm Gigi. I'm a volunteer with No Olympics. I'm calling to oppose the new short-term rental ordinance. We need to keep the ordinance as it is right now because you guys haven't really been doing anything to enforce the one that we have. And this one will just carve out more loopholes that people who are like owning multiple units and are big landlords can exploit. And just, I know that we've been hearing like a lot of stories from quote unquote like mom and pop landlords that are struggling right now, but just because you're hurting doesn't mean that you have the right to hurt other people and trying to figure out a way to stop your pain. And so I think that that's something that we need to like remember, because it's well documented that when you take Airbnbs off the market, or when you add Airbnbs to the market, when you take housing that could be Airbnbs and or could be homes and make it into Airbnbs, that raises rents, and then that causes people to not be able to afford their rent.
Mute. Caller with the number ending in 7049.
And this will be our last caller.
Caller with the number ending in 7049. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, yes. My name is Sergio, and I am a resident of Los Angeles. I stay here in the heart of the city, in K-Town. I've been out here for almost 5 years, and I am actually I'm with Unite Here Local 11, and day in and day out, we hear stories of our membership struggling. Right, these are union members, but beyond that, non-union workers, right, in the hospitality industry. Tens of thousands of people in the city are relying on the city council to do the right thing, and the right thing is to vote no on this ordinance change. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And that concludes our public comment on this item.
Thank you so much to everyone who's called in, everyone from all the neighborhoods, organization, interests, and people who care enough about our city in order to take the time to weigh in on this important issue. We have this hearing today. Presumably this item, should it go to council, I'm sure time will be allotted for another discussion as well. I want to begin our discussion with members, and I'll start with Mr. Lee, if you've got anything on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a couple questions. I guess number one for planning, the 1% that this is set at, is that a permanent, the number that's set for it, or is that just as community plans update, does that number change with it?
I'll be Solomon Carey here. As proposed, the number is static. For enforcement purposes, that would be the ideal. If the number was to change, that would be something we would need to consider.
So was there any talk about, like, as a community plans update, what, every 10, 15 years? Do they move around with that? So currently it does not.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd like to propose that, so we don't have to hear this item over and over again, that is just that 1%, moves with the community plan updates. And the second thing is the enforcement. I heard a lot of callers, and this is the biggest problem in my district, is the party homes. Right now, is there any type of anything on the books or anything proposed as far as how we handle that and who's responsible for that? Like, as far as city, or I mean, not the city. I meant like the people who rent it out, or.
I'm going to turn it over to for staff on enforcement and implementation. So, Mr. Bob.
Hello, this is Bob Duenas, LA City Planning. On enforcement, we would handle it the same as we handle the current home sharing enforcement. It's a joint effort with Building and Safety, LAPD, and the City Attorney's Office. The impacts the party homes have can be anywhere from noise to health to safety. So then we have to bring in the appropriate agency to do the enforcement. So it would involve multiple agencies.
Okay, so so currently, as far as if it's your house, your married couple, we've seen things as where couples have two different addresses, so they can both claim their two homes. Now that we're adding this tax thing, they have to put what their primary house is, and on the secondary home, couldn't we put it on the owner of the property, that if they have multiple violations, that property gets removed?
It does. Okay, I'm sorry, misunderstood the question. When there's a violation on the property relative to home sharing or the vacation rental, it would go with the property and the owner. Yes.
And is there what's the penalty? I mean, I have homes in my district that are strictly used for party homes. That's it. And no one lives there. No one vacations there. They're strictly used for party homes, and they've had constant violations. We have a PD over there, but yet nothing seems to have happened.
Relative to home sharing, again, it's our jurisdiction. What would happen if someone has a registration number for home sharing on one of those properties? If there are 2 citations, we would suspend that home sharing permit for 30 days. If you get 3 citations, we revoke it.
Okay, and then you'd lose your right to do the short-term rental. Now, yes, a person can continue to do rental activities, but that point it involves building and safety and
Right.
also LAPD. So everyone gets involved in the enforcement portion. Yes.
I'm just talking about registered users, you know.
Registered users.
I know that unregistered users are barred from the different platforms.
Right.
But for registered users, it just,
We would suspend and revoke, yes.
So it's permits revoked after the third time, you said?
Revoked, suspended with 2, revoked with 3, yes.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Oh, I also wanted to ask. I think it was covered in the earlier. I think Roberto covered all the different amendments, but I wanted to see if we could instruct the CAO to report back in 1 week on the revenue projections for the vacation rental policy, and update the home sharing revenue projections for 2021. Instead of, I think it was set for 2 weeks. Roberto, is there any way we can have it in 1 week?
It was for 15 days, Councilman.
Can we amend that to be 1 week so we have opportunity to look at that sooner?
Sure, if that's the will of the committee, yes.
Okay.
We can accept that as a friendly amendment.
Okay. Thank you. And that's really it for now, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Mr. Price.
Chairman, thank you for your steady leadership of this issue as it's moved through, including the discussion today. But out of an abundance of caution, I've been advised by counsel that I should recuse myself from this item, as it may impact my spouse. So I'm going to be recusing myself from this.
All right. For the record, Mr. Price is recused on this item. I don't see Mr. Cedillo, so Mr. Blumenfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I like all the amendments that you put forward. I do appreciate them. I think they make a lot of sense. Although I'm still not ready to move forward on this. We're in the middle of the housing crisis, and that is a big concern to me in terms of I do believe that this takes units out of circulation that we could potentially be using for housing. So that's a big concern. I had a couple of questions. What I'd love to see is something like this if it was contingent on us reaching a certain point in the housing crisis where we are no longer in that housing crisis, and how we would define that. And maybe I'll start that with my questions. I have a number of sort of specific questions for the staff, but is that something on a staff level that we could do, and how would we define that? Maybe using the RENA numbers, so that something like this would not be effective until we're out of the crisis?
I'd have to turn that over to Pagu.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Blumenfield, I think I understood your question. That would be something we would need to, look at. Haven't conceptualized that now. I'll open it up for Arthi to share some thoughts as well.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Arthi Varma, Department of City Planning. We do not have a set criteria at the moment for when the city would be out of the housing crisis. We do have an emergency housing crisis declared by the city that has been in effect for several years. That could be one marker, but we would want to explore, take this information back and explore what would be the best criteria to make that kind of a designation.
Because I'd like to see, that would give me much more confidence in moving forward. Right now it is not legal to rent a vacation home. It is only legal to do your primary residence. We, for the longest time, the city did not allow any residential unit to rent unless it's more than 30 days. We created that exemption after a lot of work for your primary residence because we wanted to give relief to folks. But I still have concerns that people are doing a secondary residence. It's a small hotel. And at that point, there ought to be a different process. If you want to open up a B&B or something to that effect in a residential neighborhood, there ought to be a process, but it shouldn't just be, a simple Airbnb type process where anybody can just start renting second homes, because that will result in the loss of housing. So some specific questions. to the staff, how does this ordinance impact our housing policy throughout the city? How can, and related to that, how do we determine that this is a true second home, one that's not eligible for long-term rental?
Thank you, Hago Solomon Carey here. I think the question you posed about validating whether the home is truly a second home is one of the challenges we identified early on as it relates to our housing policy and some of the potential challenges we see with maintaining our priorities around housing and particularly protecting our most vulnerable. We did discuss in our supplemental report a little bit about the tax forms, but we are definitely aware that there isn't 100% certainty that would come with those tax forms. Being a secondary home and an investment property aren't always mutually exclusive by way of those tax forms. So it is a question we have, and we do have some concerns around the issue of impacting housing policy, which is why the planning department's recommendations were as constrained as they were at the onset. Happy to open it up to.
And that is what the chair is pushing us back to, is a number of those planning recommendations, like going down from 90 to 60 days, correct?
Correct. Initially, planning suggested 30 days as a way to constrain the amount of days available. CPC pushed it to 90, and the instruction on the table now is 60.
Yeah, I mean, again, for me, I don't see it that this is the time to do that when our hotels are vacant and everything else. How long is it going to take to establish vacation rental implementation to actually create enforcement systems? And it took a long time with the regular program. How long would it take with this program?
This is Robert Duenas, Principal Planner, City Planning. We've approximated we would like about 6 months. That would entail creating new workflows, adapting our existing home sharing software with our consultants to accommodate the vacation rentals, more particularly to establish proper guidelines to confirm it's a second rental, also establish a new enforcement process to aggressively catch the party homes and work against that. We probably also need additional staff, one additional staff person. This is the very beginning. We're starting to, I should say, put the meat on the bones to develop the program. And we feel about 6 months to get a working implementation program.
So you need an additional staff member. I mean, given all the budget constraints that you're under, are you actually able to manage implementation or enforcement of this?
Well, we would, if whatever the council adopts, we would work very hard to implement. If you're asking for our professional opinion, one additional staff person to implement this within 6 months, working with the consultant. It does require a lot more community outreach input. So we do need additional staff.
And how would it interface with the existing platform and the API?
Okay, currently the existing platform accommodates all new registrations, renewals. This would be an addition to that, another menu selection per se. From the customer-facing point of view, they will see typically a new button that allows them to do vacation rental. On the back end, there's substantial programming and further analysis that has to be done. We'd have to incorporate databases from Building and Safety and HCID to verify that these are single-family homes. There's no violations. It's a process on the back end. We can do it, but it just takes time.
Okay, and do we align the fees for vacation rentals with the home sharing ordinance?
I'd have to turn that over to Hagu with the fees.
Yeah, the fees, there would be additional study required on the fees. I know there's been some recent action taken. I'll turn it over to RC to chime in as well, but as far as I understand it, there is an opportunity to align the fees going forward, and that would be our desire.
Yeah, Arthi Varma, Department of City Planning. The draft fees in the vacation rental ordinance are set to align with the existing fees in the current home sharing ordinance. I understand that council directed a revision of those home sharing fees, and the intent would be when that update is brought back to council that the vacation rental fees are aligned and adjusted as well.
I guess, I mean, I still look at this as it's like we're creating a lottery because it's a limited pool of folks who can then sort of violate the primary residence requirement that we have. And I'm just worried. I mean, I know you're saying you'd be able to do it, but I think it's going to be a nightmare to try to implement this. And at least at the moment, I'm comfortable with the primary residence requirement. I think that is helping us. And maybe down the road, we could get there, or I could get there personally, and when, of allowing vacation rentals when we're not in such a housing crunch. But at the moment, that's where I'm at. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo.
Mr. Chair, thank you for your leadership, your patience, your commitment to transparency and to the open dialogue that's taking place today and part of this whole process. I'm going to follow your lead on this, but I think there are some things to note amongst us who have to make this decision. So everything is interrelated. As we've heard 100 times today, we are in a pandemic, and this forces the city to make sometimes the best of bad choices. So they're not, in the ideal world, we could probably all sit down in planning school and be able to draw up what we think is the best city in the world. But the fact of the matter is that we're in a series of crises. We have a housing crisis. We know that. We have a crisis in terms of the pandemic. And we're in an economic crisis. Somebody asked, when is the housing crisis going to end? I know when it's going to end. When we build housing. But it's, very difficult to build housing. And I sure wish that all those who have spent incredible energy today with us would join us in our efforts to build housing. Because that's the answer to the question, when are we going to have enough housing? When we build it. And when we lift all the encumbrances that hold us back, the frivolous lawsuits, the abuse of CEQA, all the different delays, dilatory actions that are utilized to delay us in building the housing that we need. As I indicated, my district's the only district that has reduced homelessness. And there's a 20% difference in my district and the other districts. So, yes, we are here to make the best of bad choices. Let's note that part of this proposal, your leadership on this matter, is that we're looking at $30 to $50 million of revenue. $30 to $50 million of revenue at the moment, Mr. Koretz, when we're going to lose, it's projected, we're $400 to $600 million of a projected deficit. So what's the result of us not meeting our deficit? The result is layoffs, a loss of services, and displacement. So if we don't make this decision, the result will be precisely what we say will happen if we do make this decision. And so this is something that we have to look at critically, a little more depth than the sloganeering that takes place. We need to recognize the quality and the quantity of housing that's involved in this part of our economy. So we would note, for example, in my district, I don't think anybody does this. I have 90% renters. I don't think there's anybody who rents a long-term vacation rental or a Airbnb in my district. I just don't see it in Pico Union or MacArthur Park or Westlake. Where I see a lot of this, where I imagine this is in the more higher-end communities. We heard from the people who were up at Doheny and Sunset. I imagine that takes place a lot up there because if you're traveling and you want to go someplace and you're coming to Los Angeles, I imagine that's going to be one of the places that you're going to want to stay. I don't imagine you're going to want to stay in parts of my district. I just don't see it. And so while somebody may clamor that and articulate the challenges that confront us with respect to homelessness, the fact of the matter, not all the homes are fungible. So if we don't allow people to do this, it doesn't mean that then somebody who lives downtown, I live downtown, someone who is homeless downtown is going to be able to capture that property. There's no nexus. It says, some people said, a false narrative. I note that there's a lot of people in the film industry in this city, and that's a unique industry. It's got a lot of employment. I have my criticisms of that industry. They're well noted, but it does employ a lot of people. And that industry has been impacted, and therefore there are those who are clamoring and coming to us saying, look, this is my situation. I'm a worker. Yes, I'm an actor. Yes, I'm a writer. Yes, I'm a runner. Yes, I work below the line. But I'm a worker in a union trying to protect my house. And so it's unfair to then say, well, we don't think you should protect your house because there are homeless people downtown. There has to be some nexus here between the cause and effect. With respect to tourism, we heard from the hotel industry, and frankly, I'm not sure that the industry is going to race back as much as we want it to and need it to. I think a lot of people are going to be a little timid about going into hotels. There's more congregation, there's more density, and I think that's just a matter of reality, that there's going to be that trepidation that exists, that this recovery is going to take a long time. I agree that we should maybe perhaps, to me, the solution for that would be maybe we do a moratorium on building hotels right now and build housing and see if we can get those who want to develop hotels to build housing instead. That to me seems to be an appropriate response to this challenge that confronts us. I'm not quite sure that this is the response that's necessary. I trust your leadership, Mr. Chair. I wasn't planning to speak on this, but these are observations that I've made listening to this debate. I think it's important for us to look at all the facts, and the facts are that in the absence of this, we will be looking at a decision that will require us to make more layoffs, cut services. People will be displaced at a time when we need to be rallying to have an economic recovery. That is compelling. All lives matter to us in this city. Everyone's an angel, and they deserve our support. And I believe that, in your judgment, that this is the best proposal for us to go forward. And I concur.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cedillo, for your very eloquent and heartfelt and supportive words. Truly appreciated. I believe I see Mr. Koretz has additional questions.
I just have a few comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So, Mr. Koretz, I'm sorry, the city attorney said that we can take questions, but you can't. You exhausted your public comment time.
Well, this is new because we've sat in on each other's committees for decades without any difficulties. So
all right.
This is a new rule by the city attorney.
Before you go ahead, can you clarify this for us, Ms. Corsani?
Yes, Adrian Corsani, City Attorney's Office. Because this matter will be going to full council and the council members provided their comments in advance of public comment so the public could respond, and we limited public comment today. Any comment by non-committee members at this time would essentially be reopening the comment period. However, if the committee members have clarifying questions, that would be appropriate. Otherwise, the opportunity for council members to opine on the matter will be when the matter is back before the committee again or at full council.
Okay, well, again, I'd say that's a completely new interpretation after decades of difference, but I'm happy to at least ask one question, which is, as we look at the revenue that could be generated by this, I assume we will also find some way to calculate the lost corresponding revenue from hotels, which one would have to think is close to a wash. So similarly to what I've argued for a long time on a different topic, that if we spent a few $1 million enforcing shutting down illegal medical marijuana places, you can't just look at the few $1 million of enforcement. You've got to look at the $30 or $40 million you would bring in as revenue. In this case, I think it's the opposite. So it's really important, and I would ask if we are planning to do that, that we don't just look at one side of it, the money that comes from the Airbnbs, but we also look at what comes from the hotels. So I would ask if we are planning that kind of an analysis.
That's a great question, Mr. Koretz, and I thank you for offering that question to the process. I want to thank everybody who spoke on this today, and I think Mr. Cedillo summed it up right. We're in a bad situation with lots of bad choices, to the tune of a $600 million bad situation at least, and we have something before us that, frankly, a lot of my colleagues have a lot of discomfort with, and I understand completely. My recommendation is that we take it to the full council, that we have a full discussion, that we definitely take a look at Mr. Koretz's question. I would be curious as to how you would study that, frankly. Renting a whole house is an entirely different product than a hotel, unless you can afford a villa at the Beverly Hills Hotel, which is not even in LA, actually, so we wouldn't derive any income from that. Or at Terranea, which is also not in LA, which we wouldn't derive any income from that either. So it would be an interesting comparison to suggest that renting an entire home could be replaced by any of the hotels that we have in our city. But I'd be curious to get the information. I think members are entitled to and need as much information as we can to make a good decision. So, if there's nothing further, I want to go ahead and call the roll. Mr. Mejia?
Yes, Councilman. Just to clarify, this is a proposed ordinance by the Planning Department. Typically, this committee refers a proposed ordinance to the city attorney as to form and legality. So my understanding is that the next step would be to refer this proposed ordinance with the amendments to city attorney.
So I think before we send something to the city attorney, wouldn't it be appropriate to have a full discussion with the council?
If the will of the committee is to send this to the council floor, certainly you can do that.
Yes, that's what we seek to do today.
Okay, and in addition, Councilman, there was a request by Councilmember Lee to make an amendment that the 1% cap per community plan would move along whenever there is an amendment to the community plans. So those caps that are stipulated in the proposed ordinance right now, those numbers would fluctuate as the numbers in the community plan are updated. So if you are going to approve Mr. Lee's amendment, that is the impact of that recommendation.
So the amendment of Mr. Lee's that I was seeking to approve was the reduction of 2 weeks on the report back to 1 week.
Okay, so not the one wherein the 1% changes.
Right.
Okay, very good. So then the request will be to the CAO to do the revenue analysis in 7 days rather than 15 days.
Yes.
Very good. And so then this proposed ordinance will be transmitted by the clerk in a committee report to the council.
Yes.
With the amendments.
Yes.
Very good. So let me call the roll. It would be Councilmember Price as chair.
You just gave Price a promotion.
Oh, sorry. Councilmember Harris Dawson as chair.
Yes.
My apologies. Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
No.
No. Councilmember Curran Price.
Councilmember Price recused himself.
Okay, so that's a no. Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo.
Yes.
And Councilmember John Lee.
Yes.
So we have 3 votes. We have a unanimous decision, Councilman.
No, we don't have a unanimous decision. It's 3-1.
Right. So you need, if you get 3, it will. Yeah, it's not unanimous, but you have a majority decision rather.
Thank you. There we go. All right.
Long meeting.
It's 5 o'clock. I forget.
I know. My apologies.
All right.
So it carries.
Excellent. So it carries. So we are we've disposed of item number 9. Am I right?
Correct.
And that leaves us with item number 5.
Yes, item 5, committee members. This is the communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Miss Alexis Lang to the West LA Area Planning Commission.
All right. Do we have the candidate on the call? I don't see her.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. All right. Hi, Ms.
Hi.
Lang. Thank you for joining us for this meeting, and thank you for making yourself available for service. If you could just take this opportunity to just kind of introduce yourself and let us know what you hope to accomplish by serving as a commissioner.
Okay, sure. Well, first of all, I was going to say good afternoon, but we're going with good evening.
Yeah, there you go.
Chair Harris Dawson and the honorable members of the committee. First of all, I'd like to thank Councilmember Koretz for nominating me to the West LA Planning Commission. I'm currently a senior project manager for Bridge Housing, which is an affordable housing developer. It has an office in Los Angeles where I work on building affordable housing projects throughout Southern California. I'm an 8-year member or resident of West LA, and I'm proud of the work and excited to bring this perspective to the West LA Area Planning Commission, and I look forward to serving in this role and thank the committee for the opportunity to speak today.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments for Ms. Lang, Mr. Blumenfeld, Mr. Cedillo, Lee? All right. Seeing none, that's a good sign, Ms. Lang. Everybody's confident in your ability to serve. So without objection, we'll enthusiastically forward this recommendation to the City Council. That takes us to item number 6. Thank you, Ms. Lang. Item number 6, Mr. Mejia.
Yes, item 6, Councilman. This is communication for the mayor relative to the appointment of Mr. A.J. Relland to the Central Area Planning Commission.
All right. I see a black box, Mr. Relland. I don't see your face. We would love to see you and hear from you. If not, we've received a statement from my favorite restaurateur in the city, Mr. Relland. And I will move that we approve this item without objection. Seeing none, that'll be the order. Item number 7, Mr. Mejia. Item number 7, Mr. Mejia. Categorical exemption from California Environmental Quality Act.
Item 7, Councilman. This is a report from City Planning and Building. Yes, Councilman. This is the proposed ordinance that would provide clarifications as to temporary signage on temporary construction walls surrounding vacant lots.
All right. Is there a report from Department of City Planning on this? And you should press star 9 if you want to speak on this item. I'm sorry, Miss Solomon Carey. You should press star 9 if you want to speak on this item, and because we will have public comment after we hear from Department of City Planning.
Great, thank you. Hago Solomon Carey here with just a brief note. Planning staff has been working with relevant agencies as advised in the previous instruction, and would like a bit of clarification on 2 items regarding the time period, which we hope we can get clarity on via new instruction, as well as including the RAS zones, so that we can move forward with the study of that in our CEQA document. Thank you.
All right, we'll go to public comment on this item if there is any. Ms. Binyam.
Any callers wishing to speak on this item, can you please press star 9 to raise your hand? Three callers have raised their hands.
Thank you. So, Mr. Mejia, I believe we have some proposed instructions.
I said 3 callers have raised their hands.
3, sorry. I heard 0 somehow. My bad. 3 callers, yes. We're eager to hear from them.
Caller with the number ending in 8408. Can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
This is item 7, correct?
Yes.
Is item 7? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think considering this matter, it really speaks to sort of the priorities that this committee has set in cutting short public comment earlier on other items, and now spending your time talking about, temporary signs and solid fences surrounding the plots. I mean, you guys have spent the last hour, and you should have spent more time, hearing the voices of people in the city, because the one common thing that every person calling in today was telling you was that you have failed to create an economy in Los Angeles that builds stability and safety for people, but instead breeds precarity and fear. When mom and pop renters call in and say they need STR to make money to afford their rent or mortgage, right? That's not a point in favor of more STR, but an indictment of all the housing policies and the priorities that you have set for this committee and the council as a whole, right? It's an indictment of your ability to provide affordable housing. So why are we talking about temporary signs right now, right?
Caller with the number ending in 6775. Can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself?
Good evening.
Wait. $67.75. Can you please press star 6 to unmute?
Hi, am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, good evening. I'm calling on behalf of In Creative Unity Art, also known as ICU Art, regarding clarifications on what you consider temporary signs. And I'd like to ask where hand-painted commercial and fine art murals fit in, because in the last special meeting that was held a few weeks back, that was an item on the agenda that the DCA has and the city has agreed to not fine any type of hand-painted commercial sign or mural, fine art mural, pardon me. And would that apply as well to, for instance, I guess I'm not sure if this really is only specifically for the San Pedro waterfront, the coastal community, that's what it said on the agenda, but if it stretches beyond that, I'd like to use the new gigantic waterfront that's being built now.
caller with the number 9781. Can you please press star 6 to unmute?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. This is Phil Rex. I represent General Barricade. Our concern is that limiting signs at operating business sites.
What was his number?
All right, does that conclude our callers for this item?
I think the caller got disconnected.
All right, we'll proceed. If he calls back, just get our attention, please.
Okay.
Any questions or comments from members on this, Mr. Blumenfield?
Great, thank you. First, I just want to point out for folks who are listening, the reason why we're hearing this is because we're trying to prevent abuses, and we're having an ordinance that will do that, which is in the past, there have been concerns because folks have put up these barricades around areas that they never intended on building. They just were using it to create sign revenue. And in other situations, or they would leave it up longer than they needed to. What's good about what's before us is that it is limiting that. It is making it clear that building and safety has to approve the pedestrian wall, for safety wall, specifically in a shorter period of time. And so I think that's, for anybody listening, that's what we're about. We're trying to prevent abuse of this sign, these signs. And the whole reason for these signs also is that it's inextricably linked to graffiti removal. By having these signs on these temporary barricades, it then forces the companies to deal with the graffiti. In fact, maybe I'll just have the staff, if you could outline that process a little bit, that would be great, because that's the reason, and explain the reason why we're doing this and how it is making it, how it is narrowing down when this can be done.
Sure, I have staff on the call who can speak to that, but you're absolutely not right, Councilmember Blumenfield. The graffiti and the signs are inextricably tied. Modifications to the ordinance, we can go over those for you. Maybe I could direct Bonnie or Darby or Kevin Keller if you'd like to chime in.
And maybe I'll put another point on it too. And so I want to understand that, I want folks to understand that. And the one part I don't understand is we've narrowed it down in a very good way when it comes to making sure that the building has to be, the pedestrian wall has to be specifically there for a certain period of time. It has to be linked to building and safety approving it. But what I don't understand is why we've narrowed it down in terms of where you can put the signs to a very small portion in some cases. And I don't understand why it wouldn't be the entire wall of where that pedestrian safety wall is, to make sure that we do get the graffiti removal.
Do we care?
Power tripper, I only care because
Right. Specifically on existing businesses that are in operation, we're constraining that specific fence frontage based on building and safety direct, assessment of where that protection or barricade from pedestrian right-of-way is required, and that will ensure that functioning businesses that are in operation aren't deferring or delaying additional construction activity to gain revenue. I think that has been one of the main concerns that we wanted to address with those operating businesses, and that linear footage that the DBS will, precisely subscribe or, require for the business will be where the signs can be provided. Kevin, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, thank you. Kevin Keller, City Planning Executive Officer. The original proposal was to preclude the use of signs on operating businesses, and I think working with this committee and Building and Safety, you're correct, Councilman, the temporary construction signs would be permitted on required barricades only. So for those portions that are deemed required by Building and Safety, those are the porches that would be eligible for the offsite advertising. My understanding is a business always has the right to put up their own barricades as they see fit for construction activity, but that was some of the prone to abuse from the comments we had received earlier. So this language clarifies that it's only on the building safety required barricades, however those are located.
And I guess what I wonder is why wouldn't we just allow it on the sign, only on the wall side, on the portion where it's required by code? So that you at least create that wall where you're requiring it and you allow for the signs. You create a greater probability that we're going to get the graffiti connection there. So that if you've got most of these signs, as I understand it, they need at least 40 feet in order to make it work, right? And you could have a pedestrian wall that's 38 feet, and then they extend it by 2 feet for their construction purposes. In that situation, they wouldn't be able to do the signs. Is that right?
This is Kevin again. I think we can look into that. My understanding is whatever portion would be deemed required by building and safety would be the eligible portion. Normally, building and safety will look at pedestrian routes of travel in more pedestrian areas. I think it's different if it's kind of a shopping mall where there's more of a private construction on maybe 1 or 2 tenants. But I do believe there is required spacing between the sign components. So there is a sign component, then a kind of free and clear component, then a sign component that can be installed. I'm not sure there's a requirement that the sign component itself has to be a certain size, but there is a requirement for spacing between sign components. So we can certainly triple check that. I don't know if our planning team has more specifics on the width of length of required signage, or we maybe can just
I don't know that was a number in terms of a requirement, a code requirement, more of a I think a financial requirement in terms of whether these things pencil out. That's what I've been told. So my sense is we want them to pencil out because at the end of the day, what we want is the graffiti removal. If we're having these pedestrian walls, we want someone taken care of because they often become a magnet for graffiti. We want someone to be taken care of, and these signs are the way that we've in the past as a city have incentivized the owners to do our work and do the cleanup and do the graffiti removal. So I guess what I'm looking at is maybe if we allowed the signs only on the wall side, at least a portion of which are required by the code, so that if the wall side is required by code, but it extends a little bit more for construction, but that's what it's going to take to get those signs so that we get the graffiti removal, then okay. But not to allow other walls beyond that, just to allow the walls that are required.
This is Kevin Keller. Certainly up to the committee to provide input on that. I think just to flag, we may want to have some boundary or contextual language on how much additional kind of bump up one would receive. I think we would not want to have it be an open-ended equation, but potentially if there was an addition of 10 or 20% of that linear footage, that might be something that could help address that if that's something the committee wanted to incorporate as we report back.
Yeah, I would ask to incorporate that on the report back as how you could set that up so that you would, allow the on the wall side that's already happening, allow the extra footage to make it pencil out, but putting in appropriate limitations, because obviously you don't want to have it, taken advantage of, but you want to create that balance where we're actually going to get the graffiti removal if we can.
We can do that. Thank you.
And I would ask that to be a friendly amendment
We'll take that as a friendly amendment without objection. Any other comments or questions, Mr. Blumenfield?
That's it.
All right. Mr. Lee, Mr. Cedillo? Price?
My voice to the friendly amendment. Someone asked why we would be addressing this as if it was insignificant or small in the context of what we're talking about, but this is the First Amendment that we're talking about. The very same First Amendment that allowed the public discourse today with the public, the same First Amendment that allows us to protest and demonstrate peacefully. It's the same First Amendment that actually protects many of the rights here. And so as we add restrictions to time, place, and manner, which is appropriate, we have to recognize that that's in fact what we're doing, is adding restrictions to First Amendment expression. Mr. Blumenfield, as he is most capable of doing, has laid out with precision the concerns that were raised. I'm sorry we didn't get to hear from the last caller. I think that would have been more helpful, but I'm prepared to support, again, the friendly amendment as it stands.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo. Seeing no other questions or comments from members, Mr. Mejia, I believe we have proposed instructions, including the report back as requested by Mr. Blumenfield to consider.
That's correct, Councilman Harris Dawson. So the instructions will be the following. Request the city attorney, in consultation with Building and Safety and the Office of Beautification, to prepare and present an ordinance that amends the following instructions contained in the March 3rd, 2020 Plum Committee instructions, and those instructions have already been uploaded to the council file with the following clarifying language directives. Instruction 1CIB of the March 3rd, 2020 directives allow Building and Safety to deny a sign permit if the site had a sign permit that was expired or revoked in the previous year at the time of the submission of the application. Instruction 6A from the March 3rd, 2020 directives. If the required reports or documentation are not submitted to the Office of Community Beautification in a thorough and or timely manner as determined by the city attorney, the temporary sign permit shall be expired and no renewals or a new sign permit may be filed on the property for a period of 1 year. Add the following language to Municipal Code Section 98.0602, expiration of permits, and thereby cross-reference Municipal Code Section 141417, sign regulations, as follows. The time limit of validity of permits for temporary signs on temporary construction walls or for temporary signs on a fence of solid wood or similar material surrounding a vacant lot, issued pursuant to the provisions of Section 14417, shall be specified in Section 14417C of the Municipal Code. Expand the temporary signs on temporary walls program to include the residential accessory services zones as part of this ordinance, in as much as the planning department will include the RAS zones in the environmental analysis. And therefore, the IRS zones can now be included as part of this ordinance and does not need a separate ordinance as previously contemplated. In addition, the request of Councilman Blumenfield to report back as to the limitations on the walls and the linear footage parameters as discussed minutes ago.
Right, and to have that as a potential as part of the ordinance, but
and to incorporate it into the ordinance per the councilman's request.
Thank you, Mr. Mejia. So out of abundance of democratic practice, we've got the caller that was dropped back on the line, so we want to make sure that individual gets their opportunity to weigh in on this discussion.
Caller with the number ending in 9781. Please unmute yourself by pressing *6 to finish the remainder of your public comment.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. I believe you.
Thank you. And thank you for giving me another chance here. I appreciate it. It's Still Wrecked. I represent General Barricade, and I wanted to address the issue that Mr. Blumenfield raised it, and we are concerned that, look, limiting signs at these operating business sites to only the specific area of the wall is going to effectively prohibit signs at those sites. And the signs are typically movie posters, and those studios typically need at least 40 feet of frontage or about 250 square feet to put up a sign. And the problem is, as Mr. Blumenfield gave a good example, you can have a specific area that's 35 feet, even though the wall itself is going to be 40 feet, and that under, this proposal would make it impossible to have a sign. And the tragedy is that both the owner would lose the revenues that come from the signs, and these revenues are oftentimes needed for the renovations, but the city would lose the cleanup benefit of the properties, and that's in a 750-foot radius. So we would support either allow.
And that concludes our public comment.
Thank you so much to the last speaker. And so we have a question before us. Mr. Mejia, can you call the roll?
Yes, Councilman Harris Dawson as chair.
Yeah. Yes.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Councilmember Curran Price.
Yes. Aye.
Councilman Gilbert Cedillo.
Yes.
And Councilmember John Lee.
Aye.
Now we have a unanimous vote.
There we go. All right. And we got just one more to go. Item 8, Mr. Mejia.
Yes, I'm getting it right. Item 8, council members, this is a report from the Planning Department. It includes various entitlements, a vesting conditional use, and a master conditional use, site plan review, and a vesting zone change and height district change ordinance. This is for a mixed-use building that will contain 260 multifamily units, along with various affordable units located in CD 13.
All right. Thank you so much. So if folks wish to be heard on this item number 8, now is the time to press star 9. We will begin our proceedings on this matter with a report from Department of City Planning, after which we'll hear from the applicant and Council District 13 and members of the public. So we'll begin with Department of City Planning.
Thank you. Good evening. The Hollywood Wilcox project is located at the intersection of Hollywood and Wilcox. It's a mixed-use project consisting of 260 units with mixed income, ground floor commercial, and will retain and restore the historic Addy building on site. The request before the Plumbing Committee today is for a zone change, height district change, to amend the delimitation on the site from a 2-to-1 FAR with a 45-foot height limit along Hollywood Boulevard to allow 4.5-to-1 FAR across the site and the same 45-foot height limit along Hollywood Boulevard. Staff would like to address a public comment, but if I could just request to do that after any speakers currently, a previous public comment. And staff recommends approval and has no requested changes, is available for any questions. Thanks.
All right. Can we hear from the applicant, Mr. Armbruster? All right. You have a representative of Council District 13, Mr. Bullock.
Good evening. My name is Craig Bullock, and I'm with Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell's office. I'm here to support the actions that are before you today with the amended Q condition, which was entered into the record by this office, which will allow for a deeper level of affordability. I want to thank the project team for their continuous work with the community regarding the historic preservation aspect and working on us to better the affordable housing component of this project. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you so much. So now we'll go to public comment.
There are no callers to speak on this item for public comment, but the applicant is on the line.
All right, let's hear from the applicant.
Mark Armbruster, can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself?
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
we can hear you now.
Hi, thank you. Sorry about that. This is Mark Armbruster with Armbruster, Goldsmith, and Delbeck. We represent the applicant for the project, and just want to say we think this will be a terrific project, and we concur with the Planning Commission decision, as well as the modification to the queue condition raised by Council District 13. So we are here to speak in favor and hope you urge you to support this great project for Hollywood. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. McCree, it looks like everybody's in agreement. Do you still want to make additional comments?
Yeah, thank you. So there was a previous public comment that asserted that the project could convert to condominiums for the purposes of short-term rentals. I just want to clarify the project includes conditions and covenant requirements which preclude that conversion without submitting for additional entitlement approvals. And one of those conditions can be found in the proposed ordinance before Plum, which will run with the land for the project. So that's it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. So this item is before us. Can you call the roll, Mr. Mejia?
Yes. Councilmember Harris Dawson is chair.
Yes.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Councilmember Curran Price. Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo.
Yes.
Councilmember John Lee. So we have 3 votes, and it carries.
Unanimous. All right. Can you confirm that concludes our business for today, Mr. Mejia?
Yes, and this item, as indicated by CD 13, they're amending queue condition number 2 as to the affordable units.
That's right.
And that concludes the meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody, so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Peace out.